subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss one of our uploads. Also, head over to our website, NavajoTraditionalTeachings.com. Sign up for our email list. Okay.
Word stronger than ever. So people have said, you know, the whole point of this was to send a message to hackers, like a big public message with a press conference and everything, saying if you hack, you freak, whatever, and you do something illegal, you're going to be caught and you're going to be prosecuted. But they didn't actually end up really prosecuting anybody, you know, even with all of those materials collected. But the question still remains. Do you believe that official story? That the Secret Service and federal agents raided Steve Jackson Games because of their association with a hacker? Or, as some people believe, had a hacker that Steve Jackson Games was working with hacked into something that he shouldn't have seen? Possibly deep state government documents or plans, and had shared this information with Steve Jackson Games. It's definitely an interesting concept, especially when you begin to talk about the cards themselves. But now that you understand all of that history, let's get into the cards themselves and what exactly they predicted. So now we're at the fun part of the episode. Keep in mind there are other cards that make sense to other people. There's lots of interpretations of what these things in their art could mean. But these are a set of cards that were released in the early 1990s. So a lot of the stuff that's seen in these cards and the art on these cards and is discussed on these cards wasn't public knowledge. It wasn't even, you know, like a big thing like the Illuminati and the New World Order were. They were still concepts back then, but they're so much bigger today, along with all the different theories that have emerged over the years that seem to have been predicted by Steve Jackson Games and this card set. But now we get to the fun part. So let's look at these cards one by one. I've got some picked out that I want to talk about that I thought are eerily relevant. And yeah, let's open these cards. Keep in mind, these cards have been sealed since 1994 and 1995. So these are like old cards that haven't seen the light of day in 20 years. Kind of interested to see.
Because he bug folded a lot too yesterday. He did.
Okay, we got blood, toil, sweat,
So
and
it helps
tears.
putting it away.
Nuclear accident. Don't forget to smash the state. Good polls. Save the whales. Environmental activists. Xanadu. Clone Rangers. George Bush. Society for Creative Anarchism. Witch. Plague of Demons. That's a big one. South American Nazis that we referenced in the script. The Reformed Church of Satan.
Whenever he saw me, if I'm sitting here when he's doing work, he gets pissy. No, it's a real thing. I can just tell, and not bad. I can tell. And if I'm working, then everyone's fine. If I'm up moving around, everybody's okay. Everyone can work. Everyone. But the minute I sit down, the minute I'm not working, oh shit.
Mother's March, martial law. This is what the card that's supposed to look like. You know, 2020 and the riots.
But yeah.
New Blood. The Swiss bank account. We're going to talk about this card.
It's the same.
Fratricide. We're going to talk about this. Bigfoot. I haven't seen Bigfoot before. TV preachers.
But at the same time, they can't do that. They don't get the full thing.
Like,
oh, we got the Pentagon
dude,
card.
when you're at work, or when you're fucking at Scouts, I'm working. You know what I mean? Like, it's not as simple as they think sometimes.
Diesel engine.
But their mind wants to do that. It wants to fuck you up.
Engines
that's how you get fired from work.
You know,
that's
planned
how
over the years that the creators
see your manager talking. Oh, well, I can go over there and start talking. No, that's just not how the system works. Unfortunately, dude, it's not. It's not.
Illuminati.
I was trying to talk to him yesterday because I could tell he was all fired up about
sea monsters. The IRS chaining somebody up with hooks.
We're in here doing dishes after breakfast.
I feel that one. The IRS.
Joseph,
and
you know how those guys got
moon. Which
he said
seems to be changing somebody from a group
and not smart
into
ass,
a ravenous
I was like, no, Joseph.
All right, so we actually got some good cards.
They said they were
card pack number 3.
That's it, dude.
I really wish
those guys aren't very smart.
Here was like holographic cards.
They're not rich. They're not. They
self-esteem awards.
Like when they said they were going to do something,
stealing the plans.
Or they told people they couldn't do it before the deadline
came. 2020, what people have said
and don't run from it.
Black Lives Matter riots
If you
card.
can't do it, tell
Atomic
somebody
Monster,
you can't
Godzilla,
do it.
science
That's
fiction
it.
fans.
Do what you say
Center
you're
for
gonna do.
Weird
Do what you
Studies,
agreed to do when people tell you,
Stonehenge,
if you
Vatican
agreed to do it,
City,
fucking do it.
Imelda
That's all you gotta
Marcos. I
do.
think this is supposed to be like Griselda, the Griselda woman.
That's how
I
they
don't know
get
what
there,
her name is,
dude.
Blanca?
You just do what
Tax
you say you're
reform.
going to do. That's it.
In other words,
That's
tax
it,
increase.
bro.
No government ever took its hand out of your pocket unless it had a hold of your
I'm
wallet.
telling you, Joe,
Look
they're
at
not that
They're
smart.
executing people who aren't paying taxes.
You're smarter than they are, you bet it. But
A Secret Service.
they do what
there you go, right
they
there.
say
Weirdly
they're
enough,
going
the
to
Secret
do.
Service
They
going
turn
on
in
to
their
raid
homework.
Steve Jackson
They
games.
show up at
Look at
football
this.
practice.
This is an eerie, almost Trump one. The guards wrestled the assassin
Make
to
their
the ground
beds,
just a
dude.
second too late.
That's how they
It's
get
true.
there.
They only acted after the
It's
shots were
that
fired.
simple.
I'm not going to get into
I
my
swear to
thoughts on
God,
politics
dude.
at all.
For
And I hope you
guys,
guys know this is not
for
a political
guys,
show. I'm
it's
just
that
saying this
simple,
stuff
bro.
because that's part of the story. The
Be
Book of Kells.
trustworthy. Do what you say you're going to do.
Departments,
That's all you got to
coffee
do.
and donuts,
Period.
congressional wives,
And you'll be all right. You'll make it.
and
You can have
gun
whatever you
control.
want, dude. You'll make it
Alright,
all
so
the way to the
there were
top.
some
That's
cards
right,
in there that I'd
Joseph.
never
You'll
seen
make it all
before.
the way to the
That was
top,
actually
dude. That's all you got to
That was
do.
really fun to open those up.
Just
We got
do
a
what
big
you say you're
stack of
going to
Illuminati
do.
cards now. Maybe I'll give some of these away to people online if you comment.
That's
You know
it,
what?
dude.
Let's do a contest. If you leave 5 comments on this video and share this video, let me know, and I'll send some of these cards to you. I'll pick one winner out because I've got duplicates of some of these. If you want some of these Illuminati cards, they're rare. They're worth some money. Anyways, so at this point, I'm going to go through some of these cards one by one and pick apart what exactly these cards may have been predicting. Keep in mind, this was once again published in the 1990s. So let's see. The first cards that I'm going to talk about are the cards dealing with COVID-19. You got the American Medical Association, who, I mean, obviously, with COVID-19 and some of the conspiracies about the
No,
AMA.
and it's a plan.
Very relevant card when it comes to
What's it
what
called?
happened there.
Actionable?
You've got
I need an
cold
actionable
fusion, which
thing.
seems to be a
Something I can
scientist
do.
in a
Yeah.
lab developing something secret.
There you know, same thing. I need an actual physical
Yeah, I was like, no.
Actually, I'm
This
not
whole,
gonna
I'm
do
going
it.
to,
action report.
I'm going to do it better tomorrow.
Yeah, no, I need a.
really bizarrely
I told him, I was like,
predicted.
I
Because
need
this
to
card is meant
What do
to
they
be
call
an
that
actual
outline? You know, that's an actual
card,
thing. The
like
Greeks or somebody invented, but
disease
whatever
is
that. No, I
engineered by the
need.
Illuminati,
I need an
or
out. I
engineered
need
by
bullet
someone,
points,
some
bro.
sort
I
of
need
bioweapon. You can see on
subsection,
here
bullet
they've got
points,
disinfectant,
tabs.
Yeah,
quarantine, rubber gloves, body bags. I mean, it's just like incredibly relevant when it comes to COVID-19 and how that was handled. So it's weird. You have these, you have lots of people obviously that believe that
That's why God gave us the
COVID-19 and
ability to
everything
use that
was
pencil,
engineered.
dude.
Once again, I'm not going to state my public opinions on that, but it's weird, you know. It's just the weirdness seeing those illustrations and seeing like we actually did have quarantines and body bags like in New York City at the start of COVID,
Biggest deal.
disinfecting, like face masks and everything. It's just so strange. Now, my personal opinion, I've seen a lot of people talk about this stuff, but I feel like these cards kind of predicted
And they're drugs
Epstein
now,
in a
dude.
way. Jeffrey
If you
Epstein
think
being the
TV was bad when
billionaire
we were kids,
mogul
no,
who was sex trafficking
it reads them now.
underage girls
Like, it's
all
a two-way.
across,
Now
you know,
it's
the
two-way.
globe
Yeah.
to the elite of the elite politicians, celebrities, whatnot. Seems like they might have, you know, predicted Epstein. For example, this exposed card, which shows what looks like a politician getting caught in a bad situation on a hidden camera. Watch them scatter like cockroaches, the card says. That reminds me a lot of Epstein's blackmail operations and the blackmail that we've seen
But that's-
in pretty much any major predator ring that's operated
I'm trying to
in the
teach
last
Isabel
couple
the same
decades.
thing.
So that one was a
4
weird
years
one when I was
old.
going through
That's
this stuff.
life.
I actually just went through all these cards
You have
myself
got
and
to
decided what I was going
find
to talk
a
about
way
here, so I
to
might have missed some that
entertain
have relevancy.
yourself.
You've
I
got
told them,
You know, that's where a lot of
this
people in their
card with
20s
Bill
fall into
Clinton,
drug use
where
and
he's on a
addiction
dog
because, yeah, they
leash.
get off
And I
work,
mean,
they
if
go
you
to the
read some of the
apartment, they
Epstein
just fucking
documents and
sit
the
there.
allegations against Clinton, and obviously,
Well,
if you just know
drugs
Clinton
is the
in
only
general,
thing that's going to
he's a
entertain
freak.
you in
So I
front of
think
that
that's really
TV,
weird.
dude.
Some
Okay,
people
so
think
I was
that
like, I go,
it could be
my
interpreted as
solution
Clinton being on a
will
leash, but I
be,
think it looks
like,
more like
I
some
can
sort of
give
a
you
weird sexual
a
thing
clean
that
and
Clinton's
overnight
into, and we have no clue, you know, exactly what this
Just
is
to
going
give you
to. Now, this is what I think is supposed to be the other card to the Clinton one, but to me, it looks more like Hillary Clinton holding a noose. We've talked about this in some of my videos and allegations that have floated around about Hillary, just weird stuff. So I think having Bill and Hillary. I mean, they didn't even realize like the Clinton Chronicles, the Clinton body count, all of that stuff that they were including in the game because it wasn't even really a theory at that point. But yeah, it looks like she's holding a noose to me, obviously tied into Epstein. Now this was an interesting one, I thought. Power corrupts. You got like an old, somewhat politician, mobster-looking guy with money and a girl right there. And I've always said that, like, why do these really rich, powerful people, once they get to that level, suddenly start wanting to, you know, diddle children and get involved with these sick. And I really think that it's because of power corrupting people. This was before the era of Epstein and these sex trafficking rings being exposed. So I think it's really bizarre. I mean, this could be a figure of Epstein himself with one of his victims, or it could be a politician having one of Epstein's victims for the night. I mean, it's just, it's really bizarre. When I saw that one, I was like, oh, that's really weird. And then even this one, read my lips. It says a public figure appears on national TV and talks his way out of everything. Reminds me of how a lot of people have tried to talk their way out of Epstein connections. Lots of different people that are interesting that deny, you know, the evidence that's out there, including this made me think of the Prince Andrew interview where he sits there and, you know, goes, Epstein acted in a manner unbecoming, which is insane that he actually said that. So yeah, that one's crazy. And all those seem to paint a picture of Epstein, you know what I mean? You got power and corruption, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, lying on national TV, and
because I'm too mentally unstable myself. I need fucking structure and discipline.
There's also some
and I'm
cards
put in a
that discuss,
leadership
like,
position that I'm not fucking
right here,
qualified for. Like, I know it's my fault.
The
I know
Vatican
it's...
City card, which says
I know if he had a more normal dad, you know, a more structured environment, he would fucking thrive.
A lot of priests and
so, but at the same time, we've got what we got. We got the card. They're my family, dude.
And get off scot-free.
Like, that would be nice. But yeah, you're mine. I made you.
With the church, people
no, we can't. You can't separate.
Never do something like that. There's also obviously TV preachers, which they were a big thing back then, but I don't think that they were nearly like as huge or wealthy as they are today. I mean, I'm sure that they were, but I mean, just the fact that those preachers are so wealthy, preaching, you know, oftentimes the opposite of what God or Jesus or whoever.
But then that's when he needs to ask. Damn
it.
it.
Stuff has just come true in its own way. There's also
but he's like his dad. He's not assertive enough
to accurately describe the state of the media as it is today. For example, there's Bjorn, who is a beloved children's icon who's detested by adults. And he gets awarded 4 points for direct control of any media group. Just kind of goes to show how, you know, the media is so easily manipulated and people are so easily programmed and controlled. There's also a cable TV card, 500 channels and nothing's on. Eerily reminiscent of how there's so many shows today, whether it's Netflix or Hulu, but there's nothing you really like watch or talk about. There's also big media and propaganda, and the card says it gives 4 points to any attempt to control or destroy other media. This just goes to show how all media organizations are always, you know, competing with each other over who's right, who's wrong, who's slanted this way and who's wrong because of this slant. The media blitz, how everything is corporate nowadays. That's a card people talk about all the time. Just seeing logos and brands absolutely everywhere in the brainwashing that the media really does to the American people. There's also the newscaster Dan Quayle, who has the power in the game to distract any media group by making an incredibly stupid public remark, which is insane. I don't know if this was a thing back then, like distraction tactics. Like, it seems like every time that something is released about Epstein, something else major happens. Like, oh, the Epstein documents are dropping today. Oh, did you know this guy, you know, said a racial slur? Or like the day Epstein documents are dropped, the UFO stuff that came out years ago that we never got an answer on. It's really, really strange timing, you'll notice, but that card has proved to be extremely relevant with the distraction tactics and smoke and mirrors. There's also a card that I thought was kind of funny for Gordo Remora. It says, next up on Gordo, people who believe in conspiracy, are they nuts or just too stupid to live? You decide. He mobilizes hate and fear against fringe groups, anything for a ratings point, and that's
until we realize how much work
I used to dislike more, but I've actually come to appreciate some of his reporting on stuff like the Presidio case that I just did a full documentary on. Nobody really
how
touched that
much
stuff.
work I
And
was going
through
to have
his,
to put in to make that
episode that he
happen.
aired about
And then I
Satanism,
had
that was
to
the only place
come
where I
to
even
terms
found a
with the
single
fact of
image
who
of
I
the
was.
daycare
That
from
I didn't want to do that
case,
much
which is
work,
crazy.
dude.
And then
You
the
know,
last one for the
no,
media is just a media
that
sensation,
wasn't,
which
No,
shows
come
the
to
out of
terms with
control
yourself
celebrity
on that.
culture of
It's, but
today,
when
the
the world
thirst
is,
traps
oh,
on
you're a piece
TikTok,
of
the way that
shit if you
people
don't
will
go,
do anything for a celebrity
that's
that
the
they
world,
identify
dude,
with
and it will
online.
break
For some
you
cards
and
about,
crush you because they do
political
need
control,
people up
there's the
there.
card Blood,
But
Toil,
it
Tears,
is.
and
That is
Sweat with
important. You
political
need to know
manipulation
yourself.
and, the control
And
of
it's not
the
that you're
populace and
left.
telling
You
them
need to
exactly
know
what
what
they
you
need to
want out
hear,
of
which is
life
still
and how
a
much
true
you're
thing that
willing to work
politicians
and how
do.
much you're.
The
and then I
auditor from
tried to,
hell, and I
just
just showed you
reinforce
the
how much
IRS
work it would
card.
take. I'd be
Obviously,
like,
the IRS
well,
is out of
before you go,
control
you know what I mean?
lately.
You're
I've
gonna
heard
have
some
to
horror
make sure you
stories from
have
people
all
that work
this
on
money
investigative
saved up.
journalism
You know,
dealing with the
anyway, I went
IRS,
into
which
it.
is really
And
interesting,
then
but I'm not going to share
I
that
was
stuff
like,
here.
and
And
then
there's also a
let's
lot of
think
cards
about
that have
this,
predicted,
because
CIA stuff with documents that have been
when we arrived
declassified
on
since the
Sunday
time this
night,
game was published, which
Dad
are
got
really
a call
bizarre. Like the
from
car bomb, we've come
Lacey,
to learn that the
and
CIA had
James
used
had a
car bombs in the
flat.
past to
He
carry
had
out
a tire blowout.
assassinations.
It
There's
was
the
like
Center
11
for
o'clock
Weird
at night.
Studies,
See,
which
they
in my
don't know
mind
what it's like not
harkens
having
to the
family around,
Montauk
dude.
experiment, which is the
So
basis for
Imagine
Stranger
if you don't
Things. I
have
would highly
family there
recommend
to
you go
call,
and look
dude.
it
Yep,
up
and
yourself.
so
I want to do an
and
episode
so
about it here
then,
one day.
Dad
But
said,
the
Dad's
Montauk
getting,
Project, they
and
were,
so Bubs wrote
doing
me.
Oh,
You know,
did they?
psychological
like a thing,
experiments
no, no,
on
no, no.
children
So
out of this
I go, Bubs,
isolated
let's
bunker,
take this example.
military
If
complex
he
in
wouldn't have
Montauk,
had
New York.
family,
There's
dude,
also
I go,
this
you
card,
were
the
in that
Clipper
position.
chip. All government
you're
groups in your
in
power structure
New
gain
York
the ability to
State,
listen in on phone
and
conversations
your tire
worldwide, only
blows
for
out in the
legitimate
middle
law
of the
enforcement, of
night,
course. That's like it was almost
and
predicting
you're a corporate
the
college
legislature
student,
passed
and
after
you ain't got the
9/11
money.
You
by
ain't got the
George
money.
W.
You know how
Bush,
much
and
a
the
tow truck
NSA, and the
cost in New
spying and the
York?
You ain't
overreach
got
of
the money
government that
to
we've
get that thing
experienced in the
towed,
last
and
however
then
many
how are
years.
you
There's
going
also
to
the
get
card
home?
currency speculation,
And
which
I go,
obviously with
And
the
then that's all.
CIA and the
What you can
money
buy
that it's
cat
gotten to
like
fund
you
itself
know,
over the years
tab.
through
then
illegal drug
and then
smuggling,
that
Iran Contra,
example, I
weapons
go,
dealing. It
remember you
just all
going
ties
out
in
with Jake?
together.
Who
There's
were you
also a
gonna
little detail
call
that
up
I thought was
about
interesting. The
Howard
world has come
going
so
to
far since
you're
this
in New
game was,
York State?
And we
created.
don't
But
have the
I'm
level of
finishing
money
up
to
That's
where
Whitney
you
what
can
Webb's 2
afford
books,
just to
The
fucking
Politics of
call
Blackmail, where
AAA.
she
You
yeah.
know,
talks
Or you
so
would call them
extensively
on,
about the
why are we
CIA
why
and
are
no,
FBI
we're
control
you
not,
don't
and
have
that's
that
not.
control?
hijacking
And
of criminal
so I was
organizations
like,
to
so
further their own
for
interests and
those
even
kind of
generate money to fund
scenarios,
CIA
you have to
projects.
keep
That's
in
why when this
mind, because
FBI
that's
card popped
real,
up at the
like
bottom, it
that's
says you get 2
that
points in any
legitimately just
attempt to
happened this
control a
week.
criminal
I,
group. A lot of
what
that
do you think
information, those
going on?
documents
It's
were
like
not
not to have
unsealed,
any
and it
family.
wasn't directly known that like
How
the
at
FBI was
risk
involved
you
in stuff
are
like that back
when you
then. So
don't
it's really
have
interesting.
family.
We've also got the card
Like I
George the
said, you don't
Janitor,
miss
which seems to show
family.
some sort of a CIA
You
agent
don't miss your
rifling through the
family till you don't
trash.
have them
And this is an
anymore.
interesting
And
one
then not
too,
to be
because as you can
shallow,
see, he
but
looks to
then
be
the
picking up a
real
piece
of
of
it
paper or
starts
something
hitting
that's
you
taped
when you
together
don't
from
have
the
the support.
trash, like
How
an
much
agent from
more
some
difficult life
organization. And they
becomes
do that all the
when you
time
can't
now
get
to
a
get
fucking ride from the
DNA from
airport, dude.
people. Is
When
they
you
go
have to
through their
pay for a
trash and
ride
collect
from the
pieces of,
airport,
used
and then
whatever
you
from
have to,
suspects.
you can't
So
even
I
take
thought
your
that was
car to the fucking
interesting. There's
mechanic.
also the card Fundy
Who's
money,
gonna
just
pick you
about
up?
how these
No,
groups
dude,
are
if you
getting their
ain't got
money. You can
family
see
around, it
Jesus money
is.
and the
And
Illuminati,
I was
all
40 years
CIA
old
stuff.
before
There's the
my
imposter
after
card,
my
which
sister
duplicates
died,
the
and after,
personality of someone who's been
and then I
assassinated.
realized,
So
like,
like
holy
CIA
fuck,
assassination
me and
attempts
my
and
wife
replacing them with
are
people that they want,
vulnerable
to be
right
ruling
now.
these
We got
countries. There's
nobody,
also the
dude.
mercenaries card that I
We
see
didn't have
looking
any
like it's
friends,
linked to
really.
the
We just got
CIA. And then
back.
obviously
Yeah, all
international
the friends were
cocaine
gone. They were
smugglers,
all,
which
my
is
sister
insane,
died.
having to
Like,
deal with Iran Contra and CIA.
So
And I think that
we
that
had
was
a
obviously
long
a direct
conversation
nod
about
to the
that too.
conspiracy theory of the CIA. But you can even
It's just
see
like,
in
you
this
know,
card
I was like,
itself,
we
you've
need
got
to
some
be
man in a
thinking
suit
about the
blowing the head
future
off
and making
of another
goals
guy
and
who's
stuff. I
smuggling
was
what
like,
looks to be
but
like cocaine into the country, which is exactly what the CIA was doing in the late 1980s. Iran-Contra, Barry Seal at the Mina airport.
And I know that's the
I also
fun
thought with the CIA,
internet
the mob
today's
influence
pop
card was
culture,
interesting because of the CIA's
but just trying
ties
to
to
tell him get his
organized
head out
crime and
fast.
how they've worked hand in hand with organized crime,
Like,
not only to
I
fund
know it
CIA
sucks.
projects,
Nobody
but to
knows
help
more than
protect
me
organized crime
about having
interests,
your
to keep
history.
those groups running, but they've also worked with
Like,
organized crime.
before you
And these
go
are all
out that
things that have
door,
come
you
out
have to
since the
stop and think about
1990s
what
as
you
like
mean
big
today. You
public
have to
kind of
think about
knowledge, and these
today.
big
You have
expose
to think about
books,
what
like
you're
Whitney
doing
Webb's
today.
books
You can't
came
just
out,
walk
what,
around
2 or
this,
3 years ago, and they're like the most
this
comprehensive
fog that
walkthrough of
phone
how the
puts you in.
CIA and
'Cause,
FBI
yeah,
and
you're thinking
everything
about the
is
fucking video
intertwined
you saw. You're
with,
thinking,
you know, drug
well, you got to
smuggling
think
and
about what
organized
you.
crime and gangsters and everything.
And
And
that's
you've
just
also got a card
bullshit.
for the
That's
Swiss
turning
bank
into a man
accounts,
type thing.
which is
That's,
tied
I
into
know
the
how
CIA
tough
because
that
of,
is tough.
every single little thing, all
Yeah,
the
we
money
all
that
want to
funds
keep our
like the
heads in
shadow
the
CIA, the
clouds.
secret
We all want
CIA
to
has
think
to be
we're all
stored somewhere. And not to
philosophers,
bring up Whitney
But
Webb's
I'm
book
like,
again, but she
dude,
discusses
you
at
gotta
length
fucking think
how
about
so
what
many of these
she's
banks
like
in the 50s, 60s, 70s,
today.
80s, whenever,
What are you
they
doing?
were
Like, just
all
like you said, what are
organized
we
by
doing today? And
ex-CIA
that phone,
members,
that shit sucks
ex-intelligence
everybody
agents
into
that
that
were
into
working in
that fugue.
tandem
I
with
was even
mobsters
telling,
and
dude,
gangsters, and they would organize
that
these
bone
banks,
puts
whether
you
it
in
would
that
be in the
fugue
Bahamas
state.
or in Switzerland,
That
places like
zombie
that.
state.
That's where they
You're
would
just,
funnel this illicit money through,
well,
whether it
your
was generated
brain's
through
all
drug
fucking up
smuggling
here
and
from
illegal,
whatever they were
weapons
talking
dealing
about.
that was being done by the CIA to fund the
Just
future
got a
CIA
fucking
and the mob.
2-hour
I mean, it's
college lecture.
sorry, I don't mean to go off on
You
a
know,
tangent,
about
but
whatever
there's
the
just so
fuck,
much
you
there.
know?
There's also cards talking about the
And
entertainment
some of the
industry, like
subjects
the
they're
Clone
talking about are
Arranger's
actually
card. I
pretty
know a
big
lot of people.
subjects, dude.
Recently, it's become a very popular conspiracy theory that
Even though
people
they're
like
talking
Kanye
about
West
them
have been taken
nonchalantly,
out and cloned, and their
like you're
replacements
talking
don't
about
look
the
like them. I've seen
fundamental
that. It's
fucking
interesting how these
political
cards
philosophy.
predicted that
Like, it's a
conspiracy
big deal.
theory.
So
The
your
recording
head's all
industry
like,
as well is a card that's in this
and yeah,
game
now
that
you
has a
can't
lot of
think that
power.
you forgot your
And
lunch,
just think of the subliminal
motherfucker.
messaging of the recording industry
You watch
and what they can
because
put
your
into
head
people's
was in the
minds.
fucking
And then
clouds. You were
obviously, in
thinking about
addition, you
what
have
some
P. Diddy,
YouTube
who held
person
immense
said
power in
instead
the
of,
recording
I
industry,
don't
and
want
he
to
was
be
a
hungry today.
son of a
What do I need to do so I'm not
person.
fucking
So
hungry
then we have
enough
some
like
Trump
it is? And
stuff
that
right
world's
here, and
constantly
here's where
pulling
some of the
you.
weirdest ones are. So people
Like
have
the shit
pointed
I'm
out
watching now,
this
the
card as
9/11
being a
conspiracy
lot like
card
Trump.
game.
Like this card was in
No,
the news
nobody's worse
that
than
people
me,
said it looks
dude.
exactly like Trump, and
I was
it
just
literally
doing cereal
says
and
at
toast.
any time
Yeah.
and any place
I'm
our
sure.
snipers can drop you. Have a nice
And I've
day.
got to
And it
start. You
looks
have to help
exactly
me with
like a picture. There's one
breakfast,
picture in particular of
making other
Trump
stuff.
yelling.
I gotta
And I
start
mean,
making
the
omelets.
wording on that, the fact that it looks like
I can do
him, the
breakfast
sniper
with toast.
fact, his kind of politics
Gotta
that he's
start doing
campaigned
it.
on, really, really bizarre. That's a
Again, we need
freaky
to do our
card to me. It
speaking
really
of
looks
my
exactly
son.
like him. I mean, I can't.
Me.
That's really bizarre.
Speaking
There's
of, I
also
need a plan.
this card that
I need
people
meal
thought
plans. Oh,
seems like it
and
could
I
be
can
linked to
start with
Trump,
dinner. I
near
can start
miss,
dinner
like they tried to take him
before
out,
you
but
get
they
here.
didn't, which is an event. Teflon coating, meaning that the person's like essentially indestructible, which people think is talking about Trump. Play this card when a personality is attacked and enemy media groups are involved. So that's interesting. You know, Trump being attacked twice and them not being able to touch him, I thought was a really interesting part of that card that seems relevant. Then you've got a blonde-haired guy with bullets on his head. The second bullet looks, you know, like it's shot right next to his ear, kind of like the first assassination attempt, how it whizzed right by his ear, which is just another. There's a lot of like sniping and assassinations in this game, and they all, I don't know, they seem like very relevant nowadays after the stuff that happened this year. There's also obviously the sniper card, which you can find your own relevance in. I think it's pretty obvious how that one relates to the Trump attacks. And then another one. Did they predict Trump himself? The charismatic leader card, a blonde-haired man seemingly in front of a crowd of devoted followers. I don't know. That definitely seseems a bit Trumpy to me, just the way that it was predicted and everything. So people have talked extensively about that online and how all of these cards kind of line up together from enough is enough sniper attack with Trump on it to like
so your dad's trying to, and your mom's trying to teach you.
There's also other weird,
dude,
you know,
it's 3
events that
times a
seem to
day
be predicted by these cards,
that you've got to
including
stop.
what I think is a
And
really
yeah, we all
crazy
look at the
one,
refrigerator and we
whispering
get lazy.
campaign.
We
Did
don't
this
want to
card
fucking
predict
do
the
it.
Me
We
Too
grab some
movement? It says
carb, we
this
grab
card
some
requires
sugar.
an action from a media group.
So
Which
anyway,
is the media that the women went to with Me
but I was
Too.
telling
It
them
gives
that's part of
15
your
points in any
homeschool
attack to destroy a personality
cook,
or any
knowing
attack
you
to
have to
destroy
cook
any other
pure
group.
meals.
If a
You
whispering
have to
campaign
eat.
succeeds against a personality, he is considered destroyed but not dead,
No,
just
I
permanently out
do
of public
suck.
life. Thus, he cannot be returned to play by any means. Tell me if that doesn't sound like pretty relevant, you know, with the Me Too movement that sprung up and how
What else
everybody
you gonna
was,
have, dude? Yes, you are.
these very, very famous figures and, you know, very, very popular figures in American culture were destroyed by what started as whispers and ended up in screams, and they were just removed from public life, like sometimes put in prison, other times just banished. There's also the riots of 2020. People said there are some cards that look like emergency powers. There you got a white, what looks like army guy restraining a what looks to be a black man, reminiscent of the Black Lives Matter protests. There's also, like we talked about before, the martial law, which looks a lot like the Black Lives Matter protests and when Trump in 2020 came out with the Bible in Lafayette
But yeah, as far as
March
eggs,
on
me and your mother
Washington,
have
which
already
really
hit
could be
that.
any
Go to
political
Denny's.
movement,
It's
but I
all,
mean,
dude,
it's
you
just
gotta eat.
reminiscent with all these other cards of
Yeah,
like protests and stuff, because I know that there were protests, but like those were the biggest protests that I
What are
can
you gonna
possibly
have?
remember, and they happened in 2020, like
What are you
almost
gonna
20
have
years
for
after these
breakfast that
cards
doesn't
were
include
published,
eggs?
so it's just really strange. And then
That's
I
when
showed
you
this one
gotta eat
before,
eggs.
Upheaval, which once
So I know,
again
yeah.
looks
I know
exactly
it
like
gets
a
bitchy,
photo.
but yeah.
It could be a
You gotta
drawing
eat
or
eggs
illustration
every
of the
morning,
Black
dude.
Lives Matter riots.
Bread,
Then you've
that's
got some overall cards which there's just a card that says conspiracy theorists, which is talking about how conspiracy theory people are insane and they're viewed like that, and they're even utilized by the government to make everyone else look crazy for questioning stuff. There's the info bond card about banning information that the government deems that we shouldn't be looking at. There's the nationalization card, which has become more prescient nowadays as the government moves and expands its power and influence over people. And then you got the United Nations card, which is like the globalist, New World Order conspiracy theories that's really popped up in more recent years. To do with banking, there's also some really bizarre cards, like the fast food chains card. Obviously, it's all about profit and not the health of consumers. It even says, would you like fries with that? And gives 6 points on any attempt to destroy a green group. Because, fast food is destroying people's bodies and the environment. Then you've got ketchup is a vegetable, which is like the new thing that they're saying, like eat bugs and stuff like that, trying to just break people down, like the mass media and corporations. There's also the monopoly card, which obviously, especially nowadays, all these conglomerates like BlackRock that want to have this monopoly, this centralized banking, financial, whatever the hell. BlackRock really is an investment firm with its hands in every single portion of America, from cereal to the industrial military complex. You've also got tobacco companies. That card's interesting. Direct control of any government group. We know nowadays how big the tobacco lobby is and why they can't get stuff banned or changed. You've also got the vultures card, which says capitalizing on the disorder caused by a rival's attack, you can subvert key personnel and soon you make your own move. Just the banking world in general. And then Wall Street. There's a very, very interesting Wall Street card right there. Wall Street has the option to treat any corporate group as though it were government. So, yeah, then you got the financial people in Wall Street. There's also, I thought, what was interesting, there is a Ronald Reagan card. His Teflon coating completely immunizes him from any attack by or aided by the media. Now, that's just so true with Ronald Reagan. I've talked to so many people and said, like, Ronald Reagan did so many really shady bad things when it's like Iran-Contra. I've even heard from people I've talked to in this world that, like, the Reagan administration behind closed doors was funding the KKK in Atlanta, Georgia to sell drugs and peddle drugs to the black population there. There's so much stuff that I could list about Reagan where he was not acting like the Christian person that he claimed to be. So I thought that card was interesting because a lot of that information has been coming out decades after, all of that happened. And this game, like I said, was created just a couple of years after his presidency. You've also got, in my mind, one of the most vile people to ever be in American politics, George Bush. George Bush is a conservative when he feels like it. He's treated as conservative if and only if you, the Illuminati pulling his strings,
only in
want
America
him to be
do they call
conservative.
Satan
And I could
as
talk
conservative.
all day about George Bush allegations I've heard about him. Right behind me on the wall is a poster from Bohemian Grove. This is an original poster where it's saying that George Bush is going to be speaking at the Bohemian Club about the CIA, which is like insane. And George Bush was head of the CIA during so many terrible programs and things that happened. And if you read Whitney Webb's books, like, he's one of the major guys who is pushing for a privatized CIA. Those organizations led to Epstein figures and all of that. So I think that's interesting. I even heard allegations in a recent episode I did with the Chateau de Ameroy about Bush and the family being invited to the Chateau de Ameroy to participate in, satanic Luciferian rituals. And like a member of the Bush family allegedly had a affair with Aleister Crowley, one of the most infamous dark magicians of all time. So there's just so much to go off there. And then, like, as secret societies and Illuminati presidents go, you got fratricide trying to convince all of us to hate each other, which has become way more present, especially nowadays with this recent election. The hand of madness, destroying peaceful groups and controlling violent groups. That's just what they want to do. And then the Templars, talking about how the Knights Templar have been building up and saving up and rising, which is, in my mind, true. It's something they have been doing. And you got all these cards that really predicted global warming. You got Earthquake card, Earthquake Projector, Eco Guerrillas, Hurricane, Nuclear Accident, nuclear power companies, tidal wave, tornado, all these things happening so much more frequently nowadays, which is really, really bizarre. And it seems like, I don't know, this is just stuff that they seem to know was going to happen in a weird way. I mean, I know that those are just natural things that happen all the time, and I sound a little crazy, but some of those cards talk about like, the alleged engineering of these events and like how no one listened to warning signs, and now you have like every scientist on Earth saying that there is something happening to our environment and the warning signs just tend to be ignored. Really strange. Then you got obviously mass shootings that happen so much nowadays, and the gun lobby. And if you just actually look into politics in a nonpartisan way, and you see who's voting for gun legislation and who's voting against it and who's being paid what, it all boils down to, you know, corporations wanting money. It's not really what these people believe in, no matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat. There are Democrats that do this and there are Republicans that do this. But as you can see here, the gun is shooting out cash, and it's like, that's what people fail to realize is, like, no matter who you are and what party, you're bought off by somebody. So that's an interesting card. Then you got the terrorism cards like Jihad, which obviously has become a way bigger thing in more recent years with like the Paris terror attacks, ISIS, and I remember being in high school with ISIS and Jihadi John and Barack Obama, you know, taking those people out, and just how jihad and all that stuff has become so much bigger, even after 9/11. Remember, this game was before 9/11. Then you got obviously the Pentagon card, which is one of the craziest ones, which shows the Pentagon like on fire, which is eerily reminiscent of 9/11. And then the terrorist nuke, which is the creepiest card in the whole deck. I gotta say, you cannot get, you really guys, you cannot get creepier than this card. This card was published almost, you know, close to 10 years before 9/11. And it looks like completely predicted. Same with the Pentagon card. I mean, how crazy is that? We've talked about those already. There's also a card that seemed to predict Ozempic with the Miracle Diet Plan and how everybody's on Ozempic nowadays, and it swept the world. There's also a card about The Purge, which seems like it almost predicted a movie that came out, The Purge. All the New World Order cards have their own relevancy, like the military-industrial complex and money, wanting to promote world hunger, wanting to have a global culture, solidarity, all that stuff. It's all so relevant. We could go on for days and days, and I think that you could, if you knew, you know, if you looked at these cards, you'd be able to find 50 things that you think have come true in the world that I didn't see in these cards. Like, these were just honestly me looking through this stuff and pointing out things that I thought were really bizarre. And then on top of that, the last one that I'll end on that I thought was interesting was that they published, Steve Jackson Games published this Phone Freaks card, which gives 6 points on any attempt to control or destroy any computer group. And if you remember, this whole time we were talking about the hacking, the freaking and hacking, kind of eerie, kind of ominous. But yeah, now you guys have seen my collection of the Illuminati New World Order cards. If you've been listening to this show, I feel bad for you. You should definitely go watch this episode. But I actually wrote this episode myself. I did all the research, so I really hope you guys have enjoyed this one. I've wanted to do this for a while. If you leave 5 comments and share this video on your social media, I'll give away some of these cards to you. I'll choose like maybe 10 of these and just send them your way. They're a collector item, so these are like really, really rare and hard to find. They sell for a lot online. But yeah, make sure to let me know what your thoughts are on this whole thing in the comment section below. I'm very eager and curious to see what you guys made of this whole episode, because it's very different and it's really bizarre, but it's always intriguing. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for the growth on the channel. I don't know if we're going to be at 100,000 subs yet, but we're almost there. And yeah, from the bottom of my heart, thank you.
Channel's growing, bro.
Keep your tinfoil hat on, stay suspicious, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. See ya.
Channel's growing.
I sure am craving some Mr. Whoopi.
Remember those nights we didn't take off our makeup? Our skin does. Lucky I've got this then.
New number 7 Future Renew Night Serum with Night Active Peptacology. Works with your skin to reverse visible signs of skin damage. Don't regret, just reverse.
The big story on Action News tonight is the face-to-face encounter between residents and an intruder in their home.
That suspect was stabbed with a sword on the unit block of East Blackberry Alley in Norristown this morning. Police say they followed a blood trail that led them to the suspect.
Action News reporter Leland Pender joins us now live from Norristown, and what an interesting story here.
Oh, the blood trail. Damn, dude.
Scary moments all the way around, Gray and Shari. I talked to the lead detectives on this case today. They say thankfully all of the victims here are okay after that man brought a samurai sword to a gunfight and won.
It was pretty chaotic scene this morning.
An alarming scene on Cherry Street in Norristown Tuesday morning. Neighbors watched as police took a man into custody who was bleeding profusely after being stabbed with a samurai sword.
When I came out here, he was just laying on the ground. The cops were dragging him.
Police say 35-year-old Marcus Armstrong was actually the perpetrator of a botched robbery and home invasion a few blocks away. Around 8:45, police allege he robbed a man at gunpoint outside a home on Blackberry Alley while a female escaped inside. That's when police say Armstrong barged through the door, encountering the woman's roommate, who was armed with a samurai sword.
The roommate defended himself. He had that samurai sword and took a swipe at the suspect.
Police shared this photo of the weapon, not something they see every day.
This time someone fought back, and the fact that they used a samurai sword. I can't tell you the last time we've even seen one.
After being slashed, police say the suspect fled to a home on Cherry Street, leaving a trail of blood that ultimately helped police piece together their investigation, but initially alarmed neighbors.
I was just worried, trying to get him some help, and it was upsetting.
The investigation revealed this was a random crime of opportunity when the suspect saw the victims exchanging money outside. Police said both reported being suspicious of the man moments before the attack.
Just a good fable to be aware of your surroundings, and if you feel something's off, it probably is.
And police say tonight Armstrong is facing robbery and burglary charges, though he's currently still hospitalized. They also say it turns out that his gun was fake. Live here in Norristown, Leland Pinder for Action News at 10 on PHL 17.
Yeah, quite the story, Leland. Thank you for that update tonight.
Hey, dog, what's up?
Dang it! The hair is not camouflage. The Metal Gear series of video games is famous for many reasons. It's stealth espionage action. It's futuristic ideas. It's overt creepiness. But know it or not, it's also famous for its nuclear policy. So today, being something of a nuclear snake, myself, I think it's time we answer the question, does anything in the Metal Gear universe make any sense from a nuclear perspective? And I actually got a nuclear weapons historian to help us answer those questions today. But first, dang it, Kojima-san!
Now entering the facility.
Before we start full-on critiquing this man for some silly and not-so-silly ideas, credit where credit is due. Hideo Kojima has repeatedly and rightly used the Metal Gear series to highlight the absurdity of nuclear weapons and nuclear weapons policy. The only thing crazier than a fat man on roller skates sipping wine with a straw like a psychopath while planting bombs everywhere is the fact that we've been about 45 minutes from all of civilization ending for the last 80 years, continuously, and that's because of nuclear weapons. So thank you, Kojima-san, for making messages that many aren't thoughtful enough to make in the first place, and thank you for some truly amazing and inspired design work. In fact, I'm printing one of your Metal Gears right now as we speak. Now, it's time to speak to a nuclear weapons historian. Holy crap, Hideo has the word hide in it.
Whoa, bro.
Dang it!
It's a moving cardboard box. What did you expect?
Well, it works in the game, Arya. This is Professor Alex Wellerstein, nuclear weapons historian. You probably recognize his work in the Nuke Map website that we've been using for over a decade. He very graciously took the time to talk to us about everything from commandos named after states of matter to walking tanks. And funnily enough, it turns out that a Metal Gear isn't even the craziest nuclear weapons platform he's ever heard of.
That's pretty good.
Damn it!
I am a professor at the Stevens Institute of Technology. I am a historian of nuclear weapons, and I've been doing this for 20 years or so now. I have a PhD in the history of science, and I wrote a book on the history of nuclear weapons secrecy. I have a new book on Truman and the bomb coming out later this year, and this is kind of what I do. I do nuke stuff all the time.
from a historical perspective, does having a mobile platform for a nuclear
You're not up
weapon
early?
make sense? Has it been done before? And would it provide any advantage?
So there have been as many delivery vehicles pursued research-wise as you can imagine.
That's funny. You missed it, Mom.
Just ones that never got built, just bizarre ones, way weirder. There have not been bipedal tanks, but we can talk about other things. But there have been way weirder things that were actually researched. My favorites, if we're picking weird delivery.
Oh yeah, give me the weirdest one you can think of.
Well, Project Pluto is famously weird, right? This is a nuclear rocket, so it's a rocket that runs with a nuclear reactor.
You missed it.
As a propellant method. It's a nuclear cruise missile that is intercontinental in range and would sort of pop H-bombs out the top of it as it went. And they never built this. This is a very difficult thing to pull off. But this was very carefully studied. They built nuclear rockets. They tested them.
And the first thing he said
there
was
are things
actually,
where it's
I found out it wasn't as crazy as it seemed. It was a lot crazier.
So this is a bomber with a nuclear reactor in it, so that you never have to land for fuel reasons. But of course, if it crashes, it's got a nuclear reactor in it, and also the amount of shielding you need to have a human being.
How crazy of an idea!
A reasonably sized nuclear reactor is expensive, and that doesn't work so well with an airplane. And
actually, that's not even close to the craziest shit they came up in real life.
The smallest one the United States ever did was called the Davy Crockett. And so this is a weapon that weighs 80 pounds. It's very small. It's very low yield, much lower than the Hiroshima bomb.
Right, and it's actually featured in one of the games.
It's a famous. It shows up in the Fallout game, basically. Also, those for example of it's your man-portable nuclear weapon, and you can. The main way you use it is it's a recoilless rocket, so you're using a mortar.
I could be wrong, but
very
I think
small
the whole
mortar.
point of Metal Gear.
But that's not even the fun bit.
The
fun bit is one of the other ways they thought about using it. They were at the same time. This is the 1960s, looking into basically flying cars. So they had a thing called an air jeep that was developed. It's basically a cross between a helicopter and a jeep. Looks very unstable, right? It's big fans under your Jeep, and they wanted to mount the Davy Crockett onto the air Jeep. And I just love the
you're having a sandwich today.
This what if we had a flying car with nukes on it? How cool would that be?
You gotta take a sandwich once in a while.
Not a good idea.
Part of Kojima's brilliance is presenting gamers with futuristic ideas they've never seen before.
Just mustard, just mayonnaise.
Being an example. However, the United States and other nuclear powers did in fact look into mobile weapons platforms that may have made a bit more sense.
You should get it on.
I will never get a mobile.
We did look at
is it still good?
We looked at ones that you could go on a train, rail mobile, so you could have a train with a nuke in it, and what you do is just have lots of these going around all the time, and some would be empty and some would not. We also did look into road mobile, and the Soviets actually produced road mobile. So road mobile means basically a very big truck that can hold missiles. And we did this for short-range missiles for sure, but we also looked into them for long range. And the Soviets had intercontinental road mobile. So, the advantage of being mobile is you're hard to target because you can have this thing moving around. You can have it especially if you're talking about earlier in the Cold War, where you don't have constant satellite communication and you can't look for infrared signatures. It's very hard to see in real time something that's very large, to keep track of it in real time before you have sort of constant, even with constant satellite stuff, it's not easy. So the point is, if you're road mobile, you're hard to target, and so you don't have to worry that if you get attacked first, you won't be able to retaliate.
Right.
Now you might say, if you can do this, why would you bury them? Why have a silo then? And the answer is, it's way cheaper to just dig a hole in the ground than to try to keep things moving constantly. It's maybe safer in many ways, or you build, especially early in the Cold War, you build the hole in the ground so that they really have to hit it exactly on the nose to destroy it. You really harden it up with concrete and big springs so that, like, if they did hit it directly, sure, they knock it out. But it's going to be really hard for them to target something as small as, even with a nuclear weapon, something that's the size of basically a house is really hard to hit on the nose. Now later they get more accurate weapons and they get bigger weapons. But you're basically saying, okay, if you want to try and target us, go ahead, but you're going to need like 10 nukes per silo, and we can just make 1,000 silos, so it's not going to happen. So the point is, there's like different answers to this problem, and the technology changes. So, like, if they get too accurate, then your old answer might not hold anymore. But that's why, like, the U.S. doesn't end up, mostly for money reasons, ends up not going down the mobile route. It's not like a terrible idea, but, like, and again, the Soviets do it, and the Chinese, I believe, have some road mobile. Like, it's not the worst.
Yeah, they're close. They have a pit.
Remember, in Metal Gear, we're not talking about superpowers duking it out with nukes. We're talking about rogue actors like Shadow Moses. So maybe if the detection technology wasn't up to snuff and you wanted to strike without warning with a nuclear warhead, a Metal Gear does make some kind of sense.
Oh, man.
What would... Arya, don't do that. Extremely triggering.
Oh, Dad.
You should make it your ringtone.
Music, we
It can totally make sense. I mean, it's again, it's what you need, what you're afraid of happening to you.
I think you know what
kind
happened.
of
Y'all blew up with this.
credibility is the term that's used in the literature.
Oh,
If you're
God,
going to
the brain
say,
rot came out.
look, if you nuke me, I'll nuke you back.
Yes.
That has to be credible if you want them to take it seriously, right? And so if
At
your
least we
bomb is
didn't know
the
our
size
brain
of a
would rot.
Winnebago and you can't move it without them seeing it, that might not look very credible, right?
Sure. Or the size of a giant tank walking on
It's
two
fair,
legs.
remember.
Right, it's a little odd, right?
Oh,
On the
did
other
you?
hand,
It got
if your
that
giant
bad?
tank is just on your
I
own
teach math.
territory,
Do you know how
and
many
you
times
can
the
hide it, or you can put it
sequence
under
of 6, 7
camouflage,
comes
and
up?
they can't do real-time intelligence
And
based anyway
the
because
no,
they can't. They don't have overflight
6,
capabilities yet, or if they do,
I
they're
was on
delayed
page
by a
67 the
significant
other
amount of
day.
time. If it takes a week to get
No,
your
I
pictures
was just
back,
like,
then like,
I was like,
who
yeah,
cares,
it was like,
right?
no,
Okay, we
I'm
knew
done.
it
This is
Did
enough.
they literally
How
all
do you
start
target
giggling?
No,
that? It's
every
gonna be a lot
time
harder.
you say a sequence of
It's not
6,
crazy.
7,
I gotta be honest, it's
an
not
eruption,
crazy
and
is
then everyone
not
stops.
what I
Oh my
expected a
Everyone
God.
tried
nuclear
to
weapons
say it
historian
to
to
the
say
point
in
of
relation
it's
to the Metal
disruptive.
Gear series.
And
But
like, no,
it's
I'm
not.
That's
not.
not even
There are
funny.
mobile
What are you guys
nuclear-equipped
doing?
platforms right
We
now.
don't know what
And
then they have the
nuclear-equipped submarines.
freaking
What
nurse
is
going in
crazy,
the
though, is
cafeteria
the
who
whole
watches them, and I
walking
walk in and
bipedal
hear her being
reptilian
like
tank
6,
part of
7,
Metal
and
Gear.
they're like,
You know, like
and then she's like,
the whole
I
part.
don't, what does it
The rest
mean
of it.
though? You know,
Nothing.
I don't
and then
understand why
You
it's a
guys are
big deal that
basically,
they
it's
have
like a
an
group thing.
ICBM
It
on a
feels
tank.
good
Like, I don't get
because
why
it's
this
your
is the
group
like
and you're all doing
existential
like
threat
you.
that's
It's
worth
called
like
like an in joke.
worrying about
Well,
clones
that's
and,
what
and so
and
then they're
sneaking
like,
into
and
presumably
they're all
enemy
like,
territory
and I
and
was like,
risking
that's
international
enough. And
incident.
then I
Like,
went up to her,
yeah, it's not
and then she
ideal
turns
if
around and she's
your
older than
enemy
me. She
has
turns
road
around, she has
mobile
this like
ICBMs,
look
but
on her
the
face. She's
U.S.
like, what
basically
does
just
it mean
took for
though?
granted that, like,
And
well,
then
yeah,
I
they'll
looked
do
at
thing
that,
is like
and so we'll
same
do our
is
own thing, and
awesome.
we'll threaten to kill them,
I
and they'll
looked at
threaten
her,
to
I
kill
was like,
us.
it doesn't mean
Like,
anything.
we
And
would
then then she's she's
not
like, like,
what it
risk
means because the music
trying to
class.
like take out one of their
Someone
weapons.
tell
Also,
me
because
what
why
it
wouldn't they just build another one,
means.
right? Like, we
yeah,
don't
so then I
have
told her,
80
I was like,
million
it doesn't
guys,
mean
and they do have a
anything.
whole military
Really
industrial
doesn't.
complex.
And
We
she was
can't
like,
That's what it
oh.
means.
constantly
It's not
sabotage
it
every
not
one.
meaning anything.
Why not
What
just
it
not
means.
care? I wouldn't care if
It's
they
a
had a
weird
road.
thing.
It would be
Kids and their
amazing
brain
if they had a
I know.
walking tank that shot nuclear weapons.
But
That'd
yeah, I
be
dressed
amazing.
it all up
It would
for
not
because then
change
like
the strategic
somebody
situation one iota.
told
Like, it
her that was
doesn't
watching
do
them like,
anything
so and so
politically
said
if
6,
like,
7,
oh, look
you
at
know,
our
and she's
amazing.
like, wait,
Who
what's 6,
cares?
7?
You already
And
have them
That started. Then it
and
on
then
submarines.
containment.
It
I know,
doesn't
so
change
then I
anything.
had to stop them all, and I'm just like,
That's
This
means
is a
you can't
beautiful
say
model
memes out
I
loud,
of
dude.
Rex,
That's
I
how
was
they
like,
escape
with the
and
help of
spread.
my
and then I
new
had to get on to them all. I was
Form
like,
Labs resin printer.
I was
I
like,
printed it
It's in
out
the
of
loose
tough
now.
it's been
1500
banned
resin
in my
because I wanted to be rough and
classroom. I
tumble
was
like
like,
an
we
actual
don't need
tank,
to go
and I
around
wanted to
all
be
day
nearly
telling on
indestructible
people because
like
they
it kind
said
of
it.
is
I
in the
was
Metal
like,
Gear
you
series. But I
guys just
printed this
can't
because
say it
I
in
wanted
my
to use this
classroom.
model to really
Like,
show you one of
they're like,
Dr.
oh, we
Weatherstein's
can say
points
no,
more
just I'm not even
thoroughly.
getting into this.
What's
But
actually
like, no, I
scary
just don't
about
want
a
to hear it in
Metal
my
Gear?
classroom
It's it's not that it's a tank, it's that it can fire nuclear weapons,
Yeah,
right?
it's like
You know why 9 Why 8's afraid of 7?
But in reality, you wouldn't be doing this on the battlefield. You would be doing this from hundreds, if not thousands of kilometers away. So a walking tank might be harder to predict and track and target, but it doesn't need machine guns and the walking parts and an ability to roar like a dragon for some reason, because this would not be on the front lines. And it still wouldn't deter a country like the United States or China from targeting you with hundreds, if not thousands, of in-place missile silos and wiping you off the face of Shadow Moses.
Like you're at the Hilton Inn. Can't do that.
I think the impression's fine, Thor's hammer. Leave me alone. What would be a lot scarier than this is if you had a nuclear weapons platform that was undetectable, could be anywhere on any coastline at any time, and could launch enough nuclear missiles from just one platform to debilitate an entire continent in less than 10 minutes. Oh, what's that, Mjolnir? Those are today's nuclear submarines? Well, that's terrifying.
They only know violence. It's the only thing cats know.
The question I would put, and this is not a critique of the game because I don't think I'm going to do this, is like, does this tell you much about nuclear weapons? And my sense is no. This tells you we've made an excuse to make a game where you're really sneaky and you have this very high stakes. And that's fine. That's a great plot for a game. But like, I don't think it's gonna. Anybody sounds like would come away from this thinking, "Aha! I understand the nuclear threat now," or "I understand the options." Like the premise of the game itself, separate from the nuclear, of these like sneaky commandos going in and doing all of this, wrecking all this havoc and killing how many people? Probably a lot of the time while you're sneaking around as a box. Like there's a reason we don't actually.
I think it's only for cats.
I'm not criticizing it. That's the point of the game. I get it. I get it. Yeah, meant to be a game. I get it. It's fun. But like that's the part that's the most unrealistic. It's like the whole premise. It would be different if it was like, all right, we have one weird special ops mission. We got to go find Osama bin Laden. Like, that's a real thing. That kind of thing does happen. But like this like we're gonna sneak in commandos into the Soviet Union and destroy important strategic assets. Like that's a terrible idea. Like no president is gonna greenlit this kind of thing because it's just a dumb idea. Like you'd be way better off just like. Either if you can't negotiate with them, just building your own nuclear armed tanks, right? Like fine, like that's usually the.
You gonna have to apologize for that shit.
Or going to them if you think they have this missile system that you don't like, and we have done this.
That's up to you.
We did this in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, and we said, you know, why don't we just agree to not build these things? That's my big. If I was going to say, a lot of these games that use nuclear. It's in this way, which is different than like the Fallout, the wars already happened way, but it's sort of a like big bad control fantasy, right? You need to go in there, be the hero of the day. It's like the opposite of the you're the chosen one. It's like you need to destroy the chosen one because it's bad, right? Like and I get it, that's fine. I don't think that teaches you much about the real world. That doesn't mean it can't be very fun. What if the problem isn't they're building one big mecha tank, right? That's not that important.
Oh, that works.
What
so
if
that helps a little bit, all that work.
One of their scientists has gone rogue and is trying to sell things to other countries, and we need to like trace out his network of how this happens, and then does their government know if he's doing it or not? That's a real thing. That happened. That's Pakistan. That's AQ Khan. Like you could. That's a real project.
Yeah.
I go get ready.
Its own version. What if it's? And also from the Manhattan. What if it's? We need to know if they are doing a nuclear program. So we need you to sneak in there and
come with that hair today,
or
a bow in it,
as somebody or not,
and
then get close to these people, and then get a sample, and then talk to him. We've done that. We've done that with lots of countries. We did that during the Manhattan Project. There was a famous case of he's a catcher, a baseball player, Mo Berg. and he posed as somebody he wasn't.
Oh, yeah,
and
I
met
was talking
Werner
to Sis,
Heisenberg
so
during World War
what's
II
your opinion? Do you
with a
think
gun in his
it
pocket and was going to shoot him if he thought
matters much
Heisenberg was
on the
implying
windshield
that the Germans would have a
No,
nuclear
that's
weapon.
what
And
they
instead,
say. Just
Heisenberg
pick
seemed
one.
like he was
but I was gonna
resigned to
say
the
they're
fact
all
that they were going to
sounds
lose the
pretty
war.
much in the
And so
same
he reported
ballpark.
back, like, didn't need to kill him. I don't think they have a bomb. Like, that's a real plot. You can
I
make that
found one
up.
in Sam
That's way more, to me, that's using the real types of things, and this is also the value of history, is it gives you plausible, even if ridiculous possibilities, is more fun than just going back to like the standard Hollywood like Skybeam plot version of things. I'm not saying everything has to be this, but it is a fun challenge for me to think about like, well, how would you do this differently if you were trying to actually get at deeper issues? And what is the issue you're trying to even get at?
Whatever it was, we got the lowest quote. I remember that. We got the cheapest one, and yeah, we paid.
You know, I've been tough on Hideo Kojima in the past. For example, I've been public in saying that I don't think Death Stranding is actually a game. But again, credit where credit is due. Not only is the Metal Gear series not the craziest thing an actual nuclear weapons historian has ever heard of, it is clearly a series that actually cares about nuclear non-proliferation and crazy nuclear policies. And for that, it should be commended. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have some sneaking to do, uninterrupted.
The way they put them in.
Dang it, Kojima!
Not just the glass. I'm sure there's better glass than others. But,
Thank you so much to Dr. Alex Wellerstein for taking the time to speak with us today. If you want to pre-order his new book, it's down in the description. And if you want to see the full, uncut 75-minute interview where we talk about everything from AI to Metal Gear, go to patreon.com/Kyle Hill. And the only place that you can get that is on Patreon, just like the new Office Hours podcast with me.
They did. I didn't get one package, bro. There was only 3.
I know.
I didn't get one package, dude.
All of your burning
Isabel wanted the package
Again,
of 10.
patreon.com/Kyle Hill. Get
That's all right. I think
Discord. Get your name.
I think Sydney ate all the Oreos.
Oh,
that would make sense.
I think so. But yeah, no, not a single. I don't think I got a single one. Like not just bag. I don't think I got a single Nutter Butter.
Calluses on it.
Dad life, bro.
I'm not critiquing his voice work. That would make me a David hater.
You guys going to co-op or you?
Oh, shoot. Yeah, I'll take the co-op. Thing.
If he says good.
Hello, and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me in another of my monologues.
No, I don't know.
I just want to start by saying a big thank you to everyone who's donating to the channel and making it possible for me to keep going. I've been demonetized from YouTube for about 6 months.
No, save the Jello.
And they call it the content that I put out harmful content. But the strange thing is, here's the oxymoron for you, that I'm not allowed to monetize the channel and have adverts on it, or whether they put adverts on, they're not going to send it to me. But they're quite happy for the harmful content to be on the channel.
And she does have fun. She even asked about it yesterday.
So that's weird, isn't it? Anyway, thank you for joining me, and thank you for keeping the channel and donating and all the nice things and the nice comments that you do, which is great.
She was saying
I saw this morning, somebody sent me on one of the messaging systems that we use these days, some documentary apparently that's coming out. I think it's called The Agenda 2025, and what it's talking about is the agenda that they have. The people that want to impoverish us and make us into slaves and all those sort of things. And it was interesting because they were talking about the digital IDs and the facial recognition and the whole network of electronic stuff that's going to monitor us and keep us down within the 15-minute cities, all the sort of stuff that we've been talking about. And I thought that this is really weird because this is all like yesterday's news, isn't it? This is yesterday's news.
And I get
we know
to sit here in the
was
nude all day,
but I guess it's still a bit more fear-mongering. There's plenty of people who still want to put you into fear so that you keep your vibrations down. What people don't seem to realize is that actually that's not going to happen, that it's over. It's all over. It has to be over. I mean, when you think that in the past, all these plans were carried out by stealth, slowly, so that we didn't see them. Okay, there were these big events like 9/11 and JFK, And
Jeff
in
got me
recent
all fired
times,
up
you know,
yesterday.
the COVID sort of
I was
pandemic
listening to his
nonsense.
podcast,
And then we know that people
and he
were
was,
duped
the
into having
difficulty
something
thing
injected into
subject
them.
came
And we
up.
know that there are
And it,
quite
you
a
know,
lot of
at
people
first he's
now
like, dude,
realizing
we've been
that
talking about
there's
this
some
for
sort
years.
of very tiny little
Yeah, I
somethings,
know. They've been talking
electrical
about
things
gravity
running
too. I
around the
get like,
circuits
no, I guess
of
it
our
never
bodies
stops, dude.
and
These,
emitting
some of these topics never go away
a signal of some
because the
description, you
kids
know,
don't know it.
Bluetooth
Like, that's got to be
hurting to
relearned.
death. One has to dance around the old algorithm.
he was just
so
talking
they
about
don't
how
go,
gaming is
he's talking about
shrinking
the truth,
and making
because they don't
games
like
more
that. They don't like that
difficult
coming
isn't
out. Anyway,
helping with that at all.
so all this
And
doom mongering that's going out there.
he was saying
And
with
yet,
the
to
modern
me, it seems
consoles,
obvious that it's all
basically the
finished. It's all
developers
over.
started getting
Because
information back,
in
and
the
yet
past, as I say, it was all
nobody
done by
was
stealth. We
finishing the
didn't really
fucking
notice it.
games,
Perhaps there was
dude.
a small enclave of people
Like they got
who were
the
sort of
information
shouting and
back.
going,
It
hey,
proved
hey,
like
it's all a lie.
nobody.
You've been deceived. It's not
And
true.
yeah,
all
they
of
would
this
like
stuff.
it if people
And
got
most
to
people,
actually.
because they've been looking at television and mainstream
No,
media
dude.
and the news
And
and all
you're-
the
it's this
usual
weird
nonsense
comic
that
book
sort of
shit.
guides
You're
you
just-
and tells you that, well, when you're a child,
Whatever you
for
call
example,
that
you have to go to
Pokemon
school, and then
economic
we will
system where it's
school
not
you in
about
the
the
way of life
product,
and
it's just
what we
about
tell you
owning the
what life will
box.
be. And then you
That's
have to
what
go to
video
work, and you
games
have
had
to,
become.
you know, work
You
and
were
have
just
very
buying
little
it just to
time
buy
for
it.
yourself. And in
And you
fact,
weren't.
as
They
time's
weren't
gone
even
on, not
playing
only
the
is it
games.
one person
Oh,
in your family has to go to work. In
will
fact,
it fit
both
in there?
mother
Right?
and father now have to go to work, and we're going to make life really tough so that you have no time for your children.
Where's your SMS one?
And then you do that until you retire.
I thought
and
there
then
was
you
one
die.
on the TV. What's
You
the
know,
one?
So actually, you're not really living.
I was
at
gonna
all.
say your
You're
fruit
just
pouch might fit
turning
that
the
one.
hamster wheel. And
No,
we've
yours.
been indoctrinated in all these different
Will
things.
your fruit
so
pouch
when
fit in
people
there?
say, no, that's all a lie. That's not how you need to live. That's not
Juice pouch, yeah.
our God-given right. That's not why we're here on this planet to turn the wheel, to pay the
No, that's what I mean.
bills and
Yeah,
all
and
this
so like,
nonsense. That's not what it's
and
about.
it was
But
weird,
people
and
have
everybody
been,
knew
you know,
that.
duped because
But like,
they
you know how they are?
planned
They'll
the
argue
dark
with you. It
forces,
doesn't
you see.
matter, dude.
They've been very good at it. And we've fallen for it.
They'll
And
use
we thought, no,
anecdotal
that's,
evidence.
they've got
They'll
rid
use,
of
but
religion
with the new
or
consoles and
faith.
all that, they actually
They've
got
got
the information
rid
that
of
couldn't
our
be argued
common
anymore.
sense. They've got rid of
And
our
you put it
ability
right
to
in front of those
critically think.
elitist faces,
They've dumbed us
and you're like,
down. They
I
put
would
us in
like
front of
people to play my
screens.
video
They've
game,
now
dude.
got kids, you know, barely able to put their phone down.
Yeah,
They've been very clever.
But you know what I mean? Is it
But
too
it's
much
been
to
very
ask
subtle. Now
that you guys
it's
stop
so
being
bloody
such
obvious.
dicks that no
And you
one
think,
will finish my video
why
game?
so? Because they've bungled it. They've bungled it. Things didn't happen. They're rushing things. Now
but
they're
now
throwing
prices,
everything at us, and we can see it. We can
gaming
see
is
it. I mean,
not
some people still
becoming.
can't see it.
It's
For
becoming
example,
not a mass market product
the
anymore.
BBC,
So
I
the
read
prices
some
are
people have been
going up.
telling me the
That's the
BBC
Henry
are now
Ford thing, dude. You guys drove so many
announcing that the
people
government
away to
wants to
cell
talk
phone
about
games
dimming
and
the sky. They want
because
to
you
dim
thought
the
fucking
sky to save the
Bloodborne was
planet
off.
from
Like, no,
global
you know that shit, dude.
and I
How
think
they
to
like.
myself, and they say
And
they're
you
going
drove
to do
everybody
experiments
away,
this year.
frat boy.
And I say to myself,
With
but
your
we've been doing
hazing
it. You've
rituals,
been
with
doing
your
it for 40, 50 years,
sadomasochistic
and in
hazing
the last,
rituals,
5 to 10
you
years,
drove everyone
it's been
away,
so
and now the
noticeable,
prices
and we're
are
all
going
talking
up.
about it. And to me, the fact that the BBC now is saying this, they're reporting this,
And then you look at them, you're like, dudes, they were elitists from the. What do you think was going to happen?
They've been doing.
That's what they want to happen.
But they want to be able to say,
like,
we've
they're
got to dim the sky,
elitists.
save the
They
planet
want to be in
from
a small
CO2,
club.
this
They don't
evil
like the
gas
big
that
club. They want to be in a small club.
It's kept us alive for ever since anybody can remember. It's their way of soft disclosure. They're having to disclose this is it. And the next thing they'll be talking about is we definitely need to bring in facial recognition technology because there's too many riots or there's too much this, that, and they're having to say all of this because they're panicking, because they're no longer subtle. They're no longer able to do this under the radar. And if anybody would think that these dark forces are going to plan some awful, terrible dystopian future and that very clever people are not going to see it, observe it, whistleblowers are not going to talk about it, it ain't going to happen. They ain't going to get there. Yeah, they've got this far, they've bungled it, it's over. Because they're panicking. They're like the beast that's had its head cut off and all the tentacles are just splaying all over the place and they can't do it. We should be rejoicing. Yes, It's turbulence. We're going through the turbulence now before we get and touch down and have that soft, gentle landing. It may be a bumpy ride, and we've been saying this for some time, as more and more of those demands with the big black lettering comes in and says, you must pay us this or we'll send the boys round. I mean, look at the councils. You know, in the past they put on the benign, benevolent look. Now we see them as snarling hyenas. They don't hide themselves in their language. There's nobody accountable. Nobody signs anything. We see they're showing their faces because they have no choice. They're panicking. They've lost all subtlety at all. And it's fantastic news because we can see it now. And, of course, there's so much coming out. I mean, the dam of secrecy is bursting like nobody's before. The dam is a sieve. Well, it's more than a sieve. It's like a colander, where the water and the truth is just coming through. It's just coming through. Only the other day we saw about the UCC1 thing. That's been floating about, where it's now been proved, and it has been in a court of law, that the birth certificate is a fraud, that each one of us who thinks that we have an all-caps name that belongs to us, or that is our name, is actually the placenta. And this has been going on for a long time. All of this is coming out. It's coming out.
I was like, you know, your grandfather's one of the dudes who
so instead of
sold
watching these
piece by piece,
doom-mongering,
right?
this is the agenda, we're coming
quiet.
to get you,
Like, it's true,
we should
dude.
be definitely saying, you're not. And
They
by the
sold
way,
it themselves.
just to end, you know,
My parents,
we are
they
the most
sold
powerful
our
things
country
in the
piece
universe.
by piece,
We
dude.
have an ability
us there was
that
nothing
is
we could do about it.
unrealized. There are many people who, perhaps this is a bit woo-woo for you, but there are many people who talk about this, the power of our thoughts, the power of our soul. Right and light will always win over the dark. They've had their day. We're in the age of Aquarius. It's goodbye to all of them. I believe the Pope has died at 88. Klaus Schwab, I thought he died. Apparently he's stepping down and he's resigned at 88. Interesting numbers. And apparently now there are already whistleblowers going, he was an evil man and he will be prosecuted and what have you. But their days are over. They're over. They're putting in people now, some other chap who worked for, I think, Nestle or whatever, who is saying, people should be restricted on the water that you can have. This is God's earth. We are men and women living on God's earth, the source, the universe, whatever it is. There's only one person, or one being, I should say, that we need to adhere to, and that is the Creator. Not the governments, man-made governments who are full of vice and McNasties. Not them, not the councils, not the rules and regulation, not the bad legislation.
That on the way home
all
from
of that
Scout.
is coming to an end. And the next few years are going to be
God,
incredibly magnificent.
Demon
I'm not saying it's going to be easy. We're going to have to go through that turbulence and there may be a few fatalities. But remember, you never really die. The soul is never killed off. We all live beyond what we know. So rejoice. And stop going to supermarkets, for goodness sake. Let's support those farmers. Let's go straight to the door of the farmers and say to them, look, come on, give us the real food. We don't want to eat all that poisoned rubbish that the supermarkets have done for us. Absolutely not. Until next time, thank you for watching, and thank you for all your support. It's really appreciated.
I would never have believed
and I will see you on the next video.
But here we are.
Home run! That's my girl!
She's a star.
Yeah, since I started giving her children's clarity, she can actually play without allergies getting in the way.
I should try that. My boy's over there, sneezing in the batter's box.
No, but I
should. It's pediatrician recommended and provides 24-hour non-drowsy relief. Plus, the chewables are dye-free.
So he can focus on his swing instead of his symptoms.
Exactly. He'll be hitting home runs in no time.
Claritin clears. Use as directed.
I want to talk about a truly bizarre story now.
What on earth is this Jackie George guy doing? Disgusting human being.
Where is he getting this money from? Hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stuff.
All of a sudden, I'm hearing explosions.
He's alleged to have hired the theme park, and Disneyland Paris say they were deceived.
I'm blaming the teacher. How could the guy be 10 feet away? He was really that close.
Looks like British TV now. When I was a kid, all this stuff in England had a bunch
Yo, we're straight back with another one.
Different lighting.
It's showtime.
It always looked like And we've lost that style. Whatever style we had, we've lost it. Oh, you think so, huh?
This is the story of Jackie Judge.
Alright, Mom, give me a kiss.
The deranged
restroom.
Who filmed himself grooming kids and also having relations with them. The man who faked a funeral as a prank and hired child actors for a premiere.
Huh?
The man who released a barely comprehensible book and got YouTubers to promote it.
In the world of Juliasmin Trinity.
And it's called Juliasmin Trilogy.
It is a book that is ready to pre-order.
I'm going to be following this tightly.
The man who caused havoc as he nearly blew up the O2.
Not funny, poor girl.
It pretty much started off with just a content day. We linked up with Prince, a couple of other rappers. We went to get some food, we did some promo for our songs, and then we were freestyling. Then during the freestyle, all of a sudden, I'm hearing explosions.
Nobody asked her.
And then we heard another one again, and then I checked, I ran towards it, and I just see a massive fight.
Yo, you man, I'm at the O2 right now. Something crazy just happened. We had 3 explosions.
So, underwater bottle, but for today, not bad. Yeah. So, but I was not pissy, but I was like, and I get it.
These explosions were loud, like, it was, I haven't heard that noise before.
Something to help, like,
What the fuck? Who is this guy?
Go on that fucking lunchroom and make her
Why wouldn't you make your older kids sit with you?
I want to talk about a truly bizarre story now. Mystery as priest arrives for a service at one of London's most historic churches, only to find the mourners are actors. The coffin is empty. The dead man might not be, and the whole thing was apparently organised by a... So a London priest arrived to conduct a funeral at one of the capital's most historic churches, only to find the mourners were fake and the coffin was empty. The mystery left locals in one of the capital's most exclusive boroughs baffled. This is a lavish funeral due to take place at the London Oratory Roman Catholic Church in South Kensington. I'm actually past it myself. It is very swish. There was a horse-drawn hearse, 2 luxury vintage cars, men in top hats, a full choir, and a church full of photos of a young man. There was even a director filming the day. Yet the funeral was cancelled when the priest leading the service was stunned to find the body was missing from the coffin, and the mourners were paid actors. Amy Fisher, what on earth is going on here?
Apparently, it was all paid, set up costing some thousands of pounds, and the funeral directors earlier in the week put out a statement saying they had been paid. So somebody is quite literally paid thousands of pounds
to set up a fake,
this fake,
but not sort of for a film or something. Just
because so apparently that bit is true that there was a missing 23-year-old Latvian man, but there's sort of been other reporting that the guy who organised all of this has previously done something in Leicester Square with.
Is this the man? Is the
alleged?
The organizer. Yes, sorry, it's in quotes.
The organizer apparently he did something earlier in the year where he sort of had a red carpet in and hired some 9-year-old children to be applauding him as though he were a film star.
That must have cost a fortune.
Yeah, bro. You didn't even know him. He was an extra in one of his videos.
In a sick and twisted turn of events, Jackie then organised a fake funeral for this man. Jackie Judge had a man named Laurus Zaubi in his music video. He was in the background and was most likely a hired extra. A while later, Laurus had gone missing in his home country of Latvia. In a sick and twisted turn of events, Jackie then organised a fake funeral for this man. There was a hearse, a choir, and an attendance. Now, during this time, an investigation was still happening, so nobody knew if this man was actually dead or alive. Either way, the funeral was set to go ahead until the father, Rupert McHardy, stopped the funeral when he realised there was no body in the coffin. This is just another sick, twisted, and odd event that Jackie did in the public.
Can't get my head around why anyone would do that.
It's going to get a lot crazier, bro.
Jackie Judge was found guilty of activity with 2-year-olds in the UK in 2016. The BBC has previously investigated how he was able to hire hundreds of children to act as his fawning fans at a fake film premiere in London's Leicester Square in 2023. Some children hired from casting agencies were as young as 6. Teenage girls said they'd been asked to scream and touch him without being told his identity by the agencies. A year later, in 2024, Jaj was interrupted giving gifts to children outside dance auditions for another production. He was recognised by a parent who'd seen the BBC's report. Following our investigations, Jaj was then filmed posing naked in front of a mocked-up BBC News lorry in London, which had been set on fire. The Metropolitan Police says Jaj is on the offenders register and wanted for breaches of his restrictions. The French prosecutor says the Ukrainian girl was not harmed or forced to play the role.
This guy thinks he's the fucking Joker.
The Joker ain't a nonce, bro.
Picture above is Jackie, butt naked in the middle, being recorded by a crew while a car is on fire in front of the BBC News lorry. These are very, very, very prominent places where he pulls these stunts in Europe. He's able to get casting and crew and some more stuff, and nobody knows the source of the money. Is he selling drugs? Is he got a secret ring going on where he's getting money? Where is he getting this money from? Hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stunts. And the people that are on this cast and crew, because he's been being investigated for 2 years by the BBC, when people in the cast and crew, when they went and asked him, like, hey, how do you know this guy? Did he pay you? One of the cast and crew members was like, he's my friend. What is really going on here? These huge, elaborate stunts that are coming out of nowhere to bring him around underage people. He'll hire child actors and hire a whole bunch of them. This is him in a disguise. Literally in a disguise. Because like I said, they've been researching him and hunting him for a while, trying to get him. Here's a photo of a bunch of teens that he hired to do a music video, and that's why the kids' faces are covered, and he's able to bring them all out. You see this car looks expensive. That is the root of the story to me. Where is he getting the money for these stunts?
That's a massive production. How's he know how to set up a shoot like that?
That could be where the money comes from, bro. My family in the film industry.
If you go on his YouTube, there were videos that have millions of views. I'm like, he's not a famous singer, he's not a famous actor. What is going on? These are pictures of him shown with crazy artillery. Like, who is this guy? How is he able to get away with this kind of stuff? And why is he getting millions of views? Let me show you his YouTube page. Now, they say he has had several pages, and throughout the years, a lot of the videos have been wiped. But even here, 7 years ago, one of his songs with a little girl's eyes. Do you see what I'm saying? It's some real dark stuff going on. And it's giving me Pizzagate, where he got this money from. You know what I mean? But it's got 2.8 million views. Who's watching that? Who's the audience? What is going on here? Even this picture of him being taken into custody, the kittens on the shirt scared me. It's something very dark and sinister, weird, and like creepy about this guy. He's in prison now, but I would like to know more on how we even got to this in the first place.
There's no way he's a fucking gangster.
Nah, bro. It's all fake with paid actors.
What you're about to hear is a series of tweets. They are most likely all entirely made by Jackie, but the contents of these tweets are grisly. It starts with a tweet from an account called Ashley V. Kemp. Jackie Jalila Judge and 2 baby mamas shot. Then another account called Carlson Ekleb says, poor girls, should have run from Jalila when they had the chance, and then shows 2 images. Yeah, that's Jackie, look, you see the horrific beard. The next post is unavailable, but has a response from Matt Capino. He says, yeah, that's definitely the first one. Jalila's baby mamas need to all start running. If it was that easy to pull a £750,000 ransom from him, every criminal across the country is going to be on him. With this video attached.
No way, homie, I'm on to you.
Barbara M. Wally joins the conversation to say, it cost Jalila $250,000 to get the above girl back. I don't think he knew they had another one until this one was released. His swift response to the first had them demand $500,000 for the other. Pure movie stuff. You wouldn't believe it if it wasn't logged on the World Wide Web, and then shows 3 images. And it's a Bitcoin transfer of $451,000, $18,000, and $231,000. Shows the wallet.
Why would him paying a ransom make him look good? Why would he make that up?
He's crazy, bro. He hired Disneyland for a fake wedding.
The girl was worth $500,000.
British man has been charged in connection with organising a fake wedding at Disneyland Paris involving an 8-year-old girl. French prosecutors were called to the theme park on Saturday, and they say he's a wanted offender. Layla Hayes has been looking into the story. Layla, what more do we know about this? Well, Catherine, this is a really disturbing case. The man in question is 39-year-old Jackie Jahaj. He is a convicted offender who is wanted in the UK, and he's been charged in France in connection with a fake marriage ceremony at Disneyland Paris. As you say, he's alleged to have hired the theme park for several hours for the stunt, and Disneyland Paris say they were deceived. French police say he was planning to play the role of a fake groom. Police were called to the park by someone who said they'd been hired to play the father of the bride and had realised at the last minute that the bride was in fact a 9-year-old Ukrainian girl who'd arrived in France with her mother 2 days before this mock ceremony. Now, a woman also told French media that she was hired to play the role of a guest and couldn't believe her eyes when she realised that the bride for this fake wedding was in fact a child.
Moi, j'ai vu une enfant.
I saw a child wearing all white. I saw the hair done in curls, and I saw a woman who picked her up in her arms. And only then I was shocked. I burst into tears because I realised I was looking at a child. It was horrific.
This is sick. How did he get anyone to show up?
He put out ads, bro. They didn't know it was going to be a kid.
What on earth is this Jackie Jahaj guy doing? Disgusting human being. Now, let me get into more of the article. Now, the location. They've got a location there. Transport insured. A private bus will leave the centre of Paris at 4:15 for an arrival at 5. Payment, £200 per person. How's this guy funding this? Profiles wanted, 100 kids, 5 to 15-year-old. Oh my God. 200 adults, 16 to 80 years old. Dress code, very elegant. Evening outfit required in black and white only. Suit, evening dress, tuxedo, etc. Event context. There is a high-end wedding rehearsal with 300 guests already in attendance. The extras will have to stand up, sit and applaud and play their part in a prestigious gathering. Absolute confidentiality required. The project is intended for private/professional use, not broadcasted. Conditions apply. Be available alone or with family. Be available alone, it says, or with family on June 21st. Own an elegant black and or white outfit. Being flexible, punctual, and comfortable with morning hours. How to apply? Disgusting, bro.
Tell me he got banged up for this.
He's awaiting trial in Paris, bro.
This is 39-year-old British man Jay, and I can't pronounce his last name. Now, I can tell you based on some quick research that it costs about $150,000 to rent out Disney for a wedding. That doesn't include things like this ridiculous castle cake. It doesn't include the string quartet, and it doesn't include the 100 guests who were paid actors that he paid to be there. And I can also tell you that as a social media creator, there is no world where I see a video like what he's trying to do here making him $200,000. As soon as the bride came out, Disney staff noticed that she was alarmingly young and immediately stopped the ceremony and called the authorities. When the authorities arrived, they found this little girl scared and confused in a full wedding dress, 5-inch heels, just very nervous about everything. Apparently, the paid actors were also equally shocked and dismayed because they didn't expect that this was going to be happening and they didn't know that it was going to be a 9-year-old girl. Jay's been arrested and detained, along with a 24-year-old woman who was posing to be the little girl's sister, as well as the girl's 41-year-old mother and some 55-year-old Latvian man who was just recruited to help with the ceremony.
This keeps getting crazier.
You haven't seen his book yet, bro. We paid a load of YouTubers to advertise it.
If you love to read, honestly, there's a new book series out called Jilly's Men Trinity. And if you love the Harry Potter series, you are going to genuinely love this.
If you guys liked Harry Potter, just wait till you read Jilly's Men Trinity. I don't know how many of you guys actually read the Harry Potter series, but you might freak out. There's a new series out called Jilly's Men Trinity.
Okay, this is my favorite book of all time, and it's called the Jilly's Men Trinity. Men Trinity! Jilly's Men, so sick.
Jilly's Men Trinity,
Jilly's Men Trinity, a book, it's absolutely wicked.
It's blowing my mind. It's one of the best stories I've ever read. You have to check it out. I'm sure you guys heard about it. It's all over social media right now, isn't it? It's like a big deal.
It's popping.
It's going to be part of this new franchise, and everybody's going to be reading it. So why don't you guys Yeah, you. Go order it right now. Julie's Men Trinity is available for order, so get the book and read it with me.
I'm actually, I did performing arts at college. I'd love to see this book acted out because I think it's absolutely amazing.
They should be fucking ashamed of themselves. Most YouTubers will sell you any old shit just to get a sponsored deal.
We don't do sponsors, bro. Thanks to our channel members.
Yeah, if you want to support the channel, just hit the like button. If you want to become a member, you'll get early access to our deep dives.
Not only did Jackie do these disgusting things to students from my secondary school, he also filmed, edited, dubbed over, and uploaded a 2-hour documentary showing proof of his crimes. The unedited raw video was only deleted by YouTube once the BBC had notified them of the contents of the video.
I ain't never gonna see these fucking slaves. Get out of my car. Get out of my car. Get the fuck out of my car. Get out of my car. Get the fuck out of the car. Like, not today. Ain't about you today. Get out of the fucking car. Don't believe everything you hear, baby. Don't understand the problem. Baby, we're not gangsters out here. I promise you. Let's talk. Fuck's sake.
There are also random monologues, sometimes lasting a few minutes, of Jackie rambling about nonsense straight into the camera.
Yeah, you jumped out the hood fucking to do your own motherfucking thing because you thought you loved the people more. You wasn't with the way I was treating them. You thought they deserved it. You thought that you see yourself falling for these motherfuckers.
He made a 2-hour documentary about himself being a nonce. He only got 4.5 years.
This is England, bro. He only served 2 years.
For fuck's sake.
When it started going dark was when, like, let's just say one day I walked into school and, you know our school came and, like, it's like loads of, like, glass, like, it looks like an Apple store, like, you can see right through it. So I was walking through the front gate and, I see a girl crying who happened to have relations to this guy and I was, like, very close with him. She was crying at reception and pretty much on display for everyone to see. Like, this is the morning, like, when we're all going into school, which is kind of weird. Like, teachers didn't really, like, show her or anything. Yeah, I just heard from some girls in our year that so-and-so had been, and that kind of went around school. And it was kind of like different events to the story. Like, unfortunately, some girls in school were saying it's not true. I heard one thing was like, she didn't know it was happening. She thought it was like a bit of foreplay. Like, she didn't understand that she was being, that she was having, she was being by this person. And other people were saying, nah, like, she consented. Like, you can't consent because, again, we're kids. But you know how, like, we are, again, we think we're adults and, like, people are, like, kind of passing judgment and saying, like, she's chatting shit or she's telling the truth. And, like, it was kind of that in school that she kind of had to deal with as well, which is not really fair.
How could he get away with this with school kids? Where were the teachers?
They didn't do fuck all, bro.
Rivers Academy, West London, was unable to prevent Jackie in the summer of 2015 from picking students up in his Range Rover. But was it their fault?
Actually, I'm blaming the teachers. How could the guy, be 10 feet away? He was really that close. Literally, zebra crossing. He's parked out there. They're seeing, because the teachers used to be at the gate at the end of it every day after school. And they're seeing kids run over to this blacked out Range Rover. And you're seeing a grown man in the car and you're not doing anything to stop it. I don't know if they did anything to stop it, but I saw that car every day.
Some could argue they were not diligent enough, especially when Jackie parked so close to the school gates. But some of the anonymous friends we interviewed said something that shows the school did try to intervene.
Year 11, so after, somewhere between 15 and finished, that's when a law went around the school saying to order mentors, tutors, whatever, saying that there's a guy in a Range Rover waiting outside, and if you see him, then report to the school so they can report it to the police, because obviously the school basically what was going on, but I don't think they really disclosed it fully to the students or whoever.
So it was only after everything had happened?
Yeah. But then again, we didn't really Didn't really think much of it. I think at the time we were just not very serious. That's sort of puts it into perspective of how serious the situation was, and I'm assuming the school knew about the guy and the dodgy stuff he was doing. When we was around 14, 15, when we found out this stuff, we were just a bit immature and childish about the situation, so we didn't really take it seriously, and I was kind of just joking around then, and we'd just be like, yeah, you're acknowledged and stuff like that.
As insensitive as this sounds, you have to remember, everybody in this video was around 15 during the time of these events. At that age, everything is a joke, especially in school.
How did the police not catch him earlier?
They don't give a fuck, bro. They knew he took a gun to a girl's school fight.
The Felton Park fight was one of many instances where Jackie became involved in the inner lives of the school kids at Rivers Academy.
They're walking away, then you see, bye, literally in the middle, grown-ass man, wearing blue tracksuit jorts. There was Jackie, it was right there, you couldn't miss him.
The entire build-up and aftermath of the fight is documented in the video and also was filmed by Ahmed.
There's meant to be two girls fighting. The next thing you know, Jackie's there. Oh God, bro, this guy's babyface there. First, why are you topless, bro? Anyway, he was there, and this is the first time I saw him in real life.
What's that with your beef, man? We're gonna fucking hit the shit out of man tomorrow, yeah?
Literally, I ran home, run straight back out, took the bus, Felton Park, I was running to Felton Park.
I was kind of late, but I saw it as it was kicking off. I had to run like from school over there to over here, and there was like a massive group of kids and like, you know, like a fight, basically, a school fight.
He's got a gun. They said, be careful, he's got a gun. It's true, no? Bro, police came, they said this guy's got a gun, and they were talking about Jackie. And he came to a kids fight in the park with a gun.
His whole rampage could have been stopped if they just gave him a proper sentence the first time they nicked him.
He did 2 years, bro. Playing snooker and table tennis with the other nonces.
It's a fucking joke. I don't think it's productive for anyone to just rot in a cell. But if anyone should, it's these c***s.
It's an absolute injustice and failure of the legal system. When a who did this on camera to multiple girls can get away with this basically. 4 years, that's nothing. It makes absolutely no sense. You can literally see the process of grooming from, you know, oh, this guy always, you know, he's driving around the school. Oh, he became friends with a student. Oh, I see my friend in the, you know, I'll go inside the car. Oh, okay, this guy's a nice guy. Oh, I saw him at the fight, you know. Okay, yeah, sure, you know, we'll go on a date. This process of normalization, it is disgusting, and it's manipulation and, you know, every other word. And we all know this. And the fact that he only got 4 years and was able to be basically put back into the public, that is absolutely wrong. And that's a failure of the justice system without a shadow of a doubt. The domino effect, the ripple effect of this man being let out after 4 years, it's not just this documentary. It's more bizarre and deranged activity, more manipulation, and just more fuckery. I'll be honest, there's no other word to really describe, I think.
There's a lot of concern in the UK at the moment about the safety of kids. If they really gave a fuck about the kids, they'd start at the courts. Give proper sentences to these bastards. And give repeat offenders life.
Bro, some repeat offenders don't get any time at all.
In the wake of the Hugh Edwards sentencing, we saw that the disgraced BBC newsreader was handed a 6-month suspended jail sentence for possession of indecent images of. We decided on the back of that to launch an investigation to examine the kind of sentences that are handed down to offenders just like Hugh Edwards. And we looked at a time frame over the last 9 months and identified 27 troubling prosecutions. Those individuals, those 27 defendants, all appeared in court, and all of them left court that day having been handed suspended sentences, and some of them are repeat offenders, are walking free from court without any custodial sentences whatsoever. None of them spent a single day behind bars. During our investigations, we've identified a disgraced secondary school teacher called Joshua Pope. He walked free from Plymouth Magistrates Court in July after downloading 786 images of use. ex-mayor Terry Judkins of Pembroke in Wales, he was also given a suspended jail sentence from Swansea Crown Court for making and distributing indecent images of. Actor Daniel Frogson, he got an 8-month jail sentence, suspended for 2 years at Nottingham Crown Court after he admitted possessing 845 indecent images of. And pensioner George Ottey escaped jail at Norwich Magistrates Court and was given a suspended jail sentence after being caught with 2,500 images and videos. There were other offenders who had downloaded a huge number. One from York Magistrates Court who was found with 360,000 images and yet still walked away from court with a suspended sentence. Another one who was found to have 160,000 images on a number of devices, he too walked away from court a free man. And just to put this into context, we've got petty criminals from December last year up until the period that we're in now, September. We've identified that about 20 defendants, petty criminals that we class them as, were jailed for over 17 years in total. A shoplifter, Jack Baldwin, he was jailed by the city's JPs for 25 weeks. Mark Smith was sentenced at Cambridge Magistrates Court for stealing chocolate from W.H. Smith, and he received a sentence of 28 weeks. So you see the picture is building there, where there is that stark contrast that our investigation has thrown up.
Imagine sitting in a prison cell for stealing chocolate, knowing nonces are walking free.
The legal system's a joke, bro. But we'll have to save that for next time.
Hold up, Ted, we got to do the giveaway.
Leave a comment for a chance to win in our next episode. Let's do this, bro.
Bang, bang!
Blah, blah.
Pick something from our website and we'll send it straight out.
That's TerraTedsTales.com. Shout out everyone buying the merch, bro.
Go check out Real Life is Wild's piece on this story. We're doing some really great work.
Yeah, bro. And they're from London. Blah, blah.
And as always, thanks for watching. Remember to like, comment and subscribe. And we'll see you in the next one.
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, watch where you going, Mort.
Hello guys and gals, me Mudahar, and how's it going? Do you guys like gaming? Well, Windows is pretty much about to die in less than a month. Windows 10 is about to be pulled off of life support, and your only chance is to go to Windows 11. But what if there was another way, gamer, that you could go? The Linux way. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the catalyst for this video was that I love the Steam Deck. In fact, as of right now, I'm installing some good old Indiana Jones and the Great Circle onto it. Surprisingly, that game runs real well on a Steam Deck. But I wondered, could it run a little bit better? Now, I made videos talking about SteamOS and, how excited I am to actually see it finally come out. But what if it really doesn't need to be said that you don't need to wait for SteamOS if you want a gaming operating system? I feel like for a lot of people, they're waiting to go onto SteamOS's page and see a big old download button and just install it onto their main system. Let me know in the comment section if you're one of those people, because I think that's just kind of the matter, right? But I don't think SteamOS is going to come out for general computers for a little bit, okay? I really think Valve is trying to cook something that's super duper unique. In my personal opinion, I think they might actually be working with big companies to get anti-cheats kind of working, but that's just speculation on my behalf. Now, the Steam Deck is a great piece of hardware. And the best part about the Steam Deck is it's not locked down like other handhelds. No, the Steam Deck actually allows you to wipe SteamOS completely, and you can install things like Windows. So if you're somebody that wants to play Call of Duty or your Game Pass games directly onto your Steam Deck, you can just wipe the Linux and install Windows, okay? I have seen people try to attempt macOS installation. I've never done it myself, nor would I care to do it, but because it's the freedom of your choices, you can do whatever it is that you want. So in this case, I decided to wipe SteamOS and install what I consider to be the absolute better option. Now, if you go to DistroWatch, one of the cool things about this service is that you can kind of see what are the most popular Linux distributions. Now, this is not a perfect list, but I used to be a Linux Mint enjoyer. I actually promoted it pretty much. I was using it for a few months. Part of it was me doing this thing called distro hopping, which is effectively being like a computer software slut. So, you just kind of switch operating systems until you find what works for you. Now, for years, I was using something known as Arch Linux, which, again, if you've ever met any Linux person on the internet, they'll probably mention that they use Arch Linux, okay? It's kind of a huge badge of honor, and a lot of it comes from the fact that it is a little bit more difficult than the rest of the Linux distributions. You typically have to go into the command shell from the beginning and sort of build it bit by bit. The big benefit is if you know how to build your system, which is effectively following the brilliant Arch Wiki, you can make the least bloated, or you can make the most to your style of Linux possible. You can install exactly what you need. For fuck's sake, if you don't want to have a desktop environment, you don't even need one. You can use it as a headless system. If you want to install certain packages and delete, you can do whatever you want. But I decided, what if I wanted to use something that does this all for me and has extra enhancements that makes the system super duper snappy? So the number one position is something known as CachyOS. Now, CachyOS has kind of been around for a little bit, and I've used their software for the last few years just to get access to more exclusive game features that typically would only be on Windows. So if you go to their website, you can see that they bill themselves as the blazingly fast and customizable Linux distribution. And there's no joke about it. If you actually look at some of the benchmark work going on, they are pound for pound same as Arch Linux. But in some cases, they might actually be giving a little bit better performance when it comes to watts, right? So for instance, the fewer watts consumed, generally the better. The more optimal that operating system is, the better. Now, obviously above them is something known as Clear Linux. Now, Clear Linux is something that I've kind of dabbled around with years ago. But unfortunately, Clear Linux is discontinued. So really, the next best thing from my experience is CachyOS. So to give you an idea about how CachyOS takes it on, you can go to their site, go to download, and you can download a desktop edition, which is what I've used, and you can actually download the handheld edition, which supports Rogue Allies, Steam Decks, Legion Go's, all of them. Basically any handheld, PC computer that you can use to play video games. You can install handheld edition and get those same benefits that we're getting on the PC. Now, to install CachyOS, it was a simple matter of taking a flash drive, downloading that handheld edition or desktop edition, depending on what you prefer, using a program known as Balena Etcher to copy the ISO you downloaded to your flash drive, and then booting into it on your device. Now, if you're on a PC, you can boot into the USB as you normally would, but if you're on a Steam Deck, as long as you have these USB hubs, you can connect your flash drive in, and holding the volume down and power key, you can boot into the USB. At this moment in time, you will be present with the actual live environment of CachyOS. So from here, it's as easy as going to the install program, which is typically just pop up to you the first time you boot in. And of course, from here, you can pick your locale, you can pick your region, enter a password. You can even wipe or dual boot CachyOS alongside SteamOS or anything with ease. Now, once you've installed the actual system, you'll go through a few updates. The initial boot up will be a little longer because you're also downloading Steam and everything alongside. But once everything is said and done, the one-time setup will kick in, which is incredibly similar to a standard Steam Deck. And once everything is up and going, you might realize that maybe nothing's really changed. But this is where the secret sauce comes in. So going to the guys over at CachyOS, why would you use this Linux system? Well, it's because they provide a large selection of optimized packages for various CPU architectures. So you know how Windows 11 has those wacky system requirements? Well, if you look at CachyOS, the system requirements, at least at the minimum end, are 3 gigs of RAM, 30 gigabytes of storage, and I'm sure you guys have at least that, a stable stable internet connection, especially for installations and updates. And of course, when you look at the micro-architecture level support, it has more than our integrity support than obviously Windows 11 support. If you can tell by the Intel 4th and 5th, and I believe the 6th generation, which is actually supported by caching, but not by Windows 11 from my understanding. And all of this without bullshitting with the installer and trying to convince it to install on unsupported hardware. Now, the other big thing about all of this that is really key and important too is this is Linux. It's not Windows. You don't have to worry about wacky stuff spying on you or this weird feeling that, CachyOS is going to install a whole bunch of bloatware, dog shit, AI slop into your system that you'll always have to, in between updates, constantly be getting rid of. Remember, this is Arch Linux, so a lot of stuff that's in CachyOS you can also play around with on regular Arch Linux if you know what you're doing.
I was fighting against
it, dude. But the big benefit of this is it takes a lot of the headache out and simplifies the process for the average gamer, which is, again, the market that I want to cater to. Now, one of the things about their system that they talk about more importantly is that they have custom kernels tuned for performance and stability. So for instance, aside from the base kernel patch set that tunes various kernel parameters to improve desktop responsiveness, CachyOS cherry picks patches sets that have not been mainlined or are not included on the stable revision of the kernel. Therefore, these patches undergo internal testing before being released to ensure that stability isn't impacted. So it's a very curated experience that's not designed to completely destroy your system. Now again, because this is a rolling release, meaning that you're really just getting things as they release, there are
it's trying to make you reload.
There's a good chance your Steam Deck could break in an update if you install this system. But my personal experience has shown me that's usually the exception rather than the norm. So of course they've also got the advanced CPU scheduler support, so they've got EEVDF and BOR, which again, all of this stuff combined together, what is really the thing you have to understand is this is a very snappy operating system. Now this is probably the most snappiest system that I've been using for a while now, and I've been blown away just how better of an experience this is as compared to other systems. Now again, CachyOS, I wouldn't be making a video on it if I didn't actually feel that it was an overall better experience, which is something I can actually advertise to you and at least tell you guys that if you're a gamer and you want something that runs smooth and snappy, this is it. But it doesn't just stop there. One of the cool things that you can do with CachyOS that I find really, really awesome is the gaming support they have is basically built right in. So if you go to their wiki and you go to gaming, one of the reasons why I want to kind of talk about the CachyOS wiki is it's very centric to CachyOS. Just because this is Arch Linux, I highly do not advise that if you have an issue with this, you go over to the guys over at Arch Forums and make a big hubbub about it, because they're probably going to rip you to shreds if you start asking them help when it really should be the CachyOS dudes. But they have an amazing community, and I highly recommend if you have problems, check out their Discords, check out their actual community. They will help you. But of course, when you go into their gaming section, they have all the packages super easy to access. So if you go to their essential packages, they have many ways that you can get inside here, but the meta package is probably the one that most of you gamers are going to be using. So if you open up that spooky terminal shell, ladies and gentlemen, yes, it might seem scary, but if you look at it, it can be kind of cool. So if you copy this exact command, sudo pacman-s CachyOS gaming meta, and just basically hit enter, you can see, ladies and gentlemen, that it will basically install all of the packages you ever needed. Now I've already got this installed on my system, so I really don't need to play around, but let's say you also wanted all of the other stores built in beyond just Steam, like Heroic Games and Lucris, you can install the extra gaming applications. And, of course, once all of this is done, it comes with a special type of Proton called Proton CachyOS, which basically has a lot of these patches, FSR, codecs, UMU launchers, and these various hotfixes for games built right in. So, of course, when you download a game like Cyberpunk 2077, you can right-click, go to Properties, and, of course, you can also just go to Proton CachyOS and hit that native package. Now, the reason why this is important is because it has a lot of extra boons provided to it that make it overall better, in my opinion, than just using regular Steam Proton. Again, this is meant for gamers that kind of want to be at that cutting, bleeding edge of gaming tools. You know, you want to make sure that your experience is kind of on par or as close as you can to Windows. Otherwise, it's going to be a lot of friction for people switching over. Now, the other big thing that I find really awesome about CachyOS is that if you're somebody that wants to update their system and enable things like HDR, or if you want to automatically upgrade things like FSR, they give you all of these environment variables that you can copy into a launch command for your various games and basically get these boons without actually putting in the entire system does all of the technical stuff sometimes in the background for you. So that I find to be really fucking cool in this process. And of course, obviously, the gaming performance. Generally, I found the performance to be on par with regular Linux, if not a little bit better, okay? It's just a more responsive system. I feel like for the first time using Linux, and really it does feel for the first time that my system is as responsive as like a Mac system or even like a well-tuned Windows system. It just works really fucking well. And of course, obviously, it goes without saying that there are certain games that just won't work. So for instance, games that have that strict anti-cheat support will not work. So if you're playing something like that new Skate game, doesn't support Linux yet, so if that's holding you back, then it's going to hold you back. But overall, guys, the experience that's provided here is actually pretty goddamn awesome, especially considering the fact that this is free, open source, and even if you don't play video games, for instance, I think the general responsive snappiness of this operating system is just worth the price of installing, okay? Not to say that regular Arch Linux can't be modified in this way, but for any of you guys that are kind of new to Linux, this is at least a good foot in the door for people to play around with the ever-coveted Arch Linux world, right? It's just actually that fucking good. Probably the only other most responsive operating system compared to this might be like...
Whoa!
I don't know. Well-optimized Gen 2, Hannah Montana OS, Ret Star OS. You catch my drift.
Yeah, whatever
okay?
they shoot me with that little...
Look, I'm just making this video for the gamers that want to exodus from Windows. But if you're still somebody that wants pure stability, there's still no better option than things like Linux Mint. But if you're a gamer, Linux Mint is great, but it feels like it's kind of held back because of how less focused it is on gaming and more on stability. So for me, switching over to CachyOS, just everything runs smoother, the games run smoother, the whole system runs smoother, and I'm actually impressed by saying that I think the guys behind this have absolutely earned their #1 spot, at least on the company, not really, the distro watch list. That said, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you enjoyed it. It's a great replacement for things like the Steam Deck, but, you know, I can understand if you just want to keep regular Steam OS, I mean, why not? But if you got, like, one of those Rogue Allies or one of those Legion Go's, there is no reason not to install CachyOS if you just want that snappy gaming with at least, I would say, an extra chunk of battery life remaining and just better performance overall in general, especially if all you do is play single-player games like I do these days. That said, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. I am out.
Granger knows that if you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, you go to great lengths, and sometimes heights, to ensure the power is always flowing. Which is why you can count on Granger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery. So you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRANGER, click Granger.com, or just stop by. Granger, for the ones who get it done.
How do you feel about that? I knew it. Hello, Julie from
Hello,
Liberty City.
this is Anton, and in this video, we're going to be exploring one of the most mysterious, and I guess one of the most bizarre objects, recently observed by the James Webb Space Telescope right here in the Milky Way galaxy. An object that's sort of like a planet, but that most likely used to be a star, and over thousands and millions of years was physically stripped by its partner to become something entirely different. And so here, imagine a planet about the size of Jupiter, but with composition and atmosphere that's entirely different from anything we've ever seen. And in this particular case, based on the discoveries from the James Webb, it seems to be even more bizarre than scientists anticipated. And so let's discuss these new observations and these new discoveries from this very strange type of planet known as the Black Widow pulsar planet. That's sort of surprising and sort of difficult to explain. But in order to understand why this object is so bizarre, let's I guess talk about how we think these are formed and what researchers previously assumed they might resemble. And so in a nutshell, it's what we would call a pulsar planet. A planetary object orbiting some kind of a pulsar or a neutron star, and the type of an object that, although kind of rare, is actually pretty well known to us because the first exoplanets ever confirmed were physically orbiting a pulsar and were discovered back in 1992. And all this very likely starts with a massive star that runs out of fuel and eventually explodes in a brilliant supernova. Then what's left behind is often a very tiny, super dense core, a core we refer to as a neutron star. And it just so happens that if this neutron star spins fast enough, it starts to produce radio emissions, kind of like a cosmic lighthouse. This is what we usually refer to as a pulsar. And what makes pulsars incredible for science is that they tend to produce incredibly accurate pulsations. They're basically some of the most precise clocks in the universe. And it was because of the deviations in these pulsations that 3 planets were discovered around a distant pulsar that currently has a proper name of Lich. And this was a huge deal because it proved that planets do exist outside of the solar system, and in this case can be detected by measuring these pulsations extremely accurately. And in the last few years, more such objects have been discovered, and we'll discuss some of them in the description below. But because pulsars are so small, actually seeing these planets will be extremely difficult. There will be practically no spectroscopy here, and it will be very difficult to observe any kind of emissions. But even though these are technically exotic and rare objects, researchers still want to understand exactly what they are, and more importantly, how they form or how they survive a supernova event. As a matter of fact, some of them are even thought to be diamond planets, or essentially the remnants of partner stars that were almost completely destroyed, but somehow survived the supernova, leaving behind a carbon-enriched core. But because a lot of their mass was stripped away, they essentially became planetary objects that used to be stars. But the object we're discussing today is slightly different, in a sense that it kind of started different, because it seemed to have a partner that was much closer. And so this object, referred to as PSR J2322-2650, was officially discovered back in 2017 in a study you see right here. But this was not just a pulsar, this was part of a much different special system referred to as a Black Widow. A type of an object that's best described in this picture right here. In essence, it's a pulsar with a very close partner in an extremely tight orbit. And it's called a Black Widow, named after the famous spider, for a very similar reason. In these systems, the millisecond pulsar that orbits extremely close to the star first steals the mass from the star, accelerating its own spin, and then starts to use its emission to continuously strip the object, slowly destroying it in the process. And so basically it's eating its own partner and destroying it just like the Black Widow spider. And so as this pulsar blasts the companion with intense high-energy radiation, usually involving gamma rays and very powerful X-rays, it slowly evaporates the companion star.
Okay.
Making it smaller and smaller, and essentially turning it into a planet that even then starts losing its mass continuously. And this process is expected to strip away most of the companion's outer layers, most likely leaving behind some kind of a smaller, very often helium-dominated object. Or at least that's what the scientists expect based on what we know about stars. And while today we know of 50 such objects, with most of them containing relatively massive and relatively dense partners with extremely hot day sides. And that's because the day side, or the side pointing toward the neutron star, is constantly illuminated and reaches temperatures in thousands of Kelvin. But something was a little bit different about this pulsar. It was also discovered to have a partner, or I guess you can call it a planet, but strangely enough here, the pulsar companion had a mass and density, and even temperature, somewhat similar to a typical hot Jupiter. A type of an exoplanet was discovered in a lot of different star systems that's usually almost the same as Jupiter, but just much hotter, which often results in the expanded atmosphere or in a planet losing a lot of mass. And so here too, the planet seems to have very similar density of about 1.8 gram per centimeter cube and a temperature of about 1900 Kelvin, which is lower than other similar objects.
Oh my gosh, okay, yeah. I don't believe that. I don't believe any of that. I don't believe that. I don't believe that.
And so what exactly did JWST discover here? Now, as always, you can find the results and the study in the description below. But in essence, after observing this planet, while it orbited around the pulsar for 7.8 hours, it discovered something nobody expected. The atmosphere of this object seemed to be extremely enriched in carbon, specifically C3 and C2 molecules. Here we're talking about molecular carbon, which on Earth usually produces one of these combinations with hydrogen, such as, for example, propane. But in this case, they did not discover a lot of hydrogen, suggesting that most of this carbon was actually molecular. So things like tricarbon and bicarbon, which we often do find in outer space, but that has never really been seen on a planet. But more importantly, C3 and C2 molecules, which mostly have been seen around tails of comets,
then you just stood there while I was pushing. I was pushing run, dude.
Right here on planet Earth, have never been seen in such a high abundance on any moon or any planetary atmosphere. And to really highlight how strange this is, researchers calculated the carbon-to-oxygen and carbon-to-nitrogen ratio in the atmosphere of this planet and compared this to planet Earth. And so in this bizarre case, the ratio of carbon
wake up the babies, smoke, kill, don't get sucked into this game, dude, make you upset, all pissy.
100 atoms of carbon.
That's
so
the way it
obviously
is.
this could not be something like carbon dioxide.
That's how it's successful, dude. They become psychopathic and they don't care. They remain calm and cool.
10,000
under stress.
atoms, suggesting that this could not be molecules of, for example, cyanide or any similar molecules we might expect from some kind of a gas giant.
A machine.
And so the carbon-oxygen ratio
you gotta become a cold, unfeeling machine, bro.
Earth, with the carbon-nitrogen
what do you give a fuck? So the game killed you.
Higher, implying that this unusual planet was overwhelmingly carbon-rich. Or at least its upper layers and its atmosphere. And though some signs of carbon-hydrogen bonds were seen, overall the hydrogen was present in very small amounts.
To make you an unemotional piece of wood.
When it came to surface temperature, the night side of the planet appeared somewhat featureless, possibly suggesting a very thick layer of dust or clouds, and possibly suggesting a huge cloud cover, maybe the result of this carbon haze, kind of similar to what Venus contains as well. In contrast, the day side basically just showed a lot of carbon molecule absorption spectra. And beyond the carbon chemistry, James Webb also provided insights about the planetary dynamics, including extremely strong westward winds, which were quite certainly the result of this planet being tidally locked. In essence, it's always facing the same side toward the pulsar, which forces very strong wind circulations going from the hot side to the cold side. And here researchers are pretty certain about this because the hottest part of the planet is not directly facing pulsar, which technically it should. Instead, it seems to be shifted by about 12 degrees, and in this case shifted to the west. And that's because of the very strong winds shifting the atmosphere just a little bit. But because in this case it's going westwards, this provides us with the first observational evidence for some kind of a new type of atmospheric circulation regime. And that's because previously,
just send it a message, dude. Just like that, it should know. It should be able to read that. I pissed him off. He's not playing anymore.
Very fast rotation periods,
not good.
but going in the opposite direction. And so here we have this new observation that seems to suggest winds on these planets potentially produced in slightly different ways.
He's not playing with me anymore. I want to have friends.
Carbon-rich, the planet itself is most likely
I need to be nicer if I want people to play with me.
Is very likely
if I want to have friends, I need to learn to be a little bit nicer.
Or I guess a diamond planet, given its mass, it would be much smaller.
Come on, let's walk through this step by step.
More dense. But because of its density of 1.8 gram per centimeter cube, and because it's visible to the James Webb, meaning that its size is pretty large, this carbon enrichment seems to be just the surface feature, or possibly an atmospheric phenomenon, with the internal structure still being potentially similar to various gas giants. And so here these findings basically help us understand these Black Widow systems just a little bit better. Specifically, they might help us understand how the companions form, because according to previous predictions and previous models, the pulsar is supposed to strip the outer layers from the companion, leaving behind a core of helium, but also other diverse elements, such as, for example, oxygen and nitrogen. But by discovering that this object is extremely enriched in carbon and basically lacks everything else, this sort of creates a new puzzle in regards to how this was formed.
You think it would
or
work or
what
not
kind of a
work?
star this used to be.
But something
before it became a
loads,
planet.
doesn't load,
Because
fails
once
to
again,
load or
this
something, a
used
little
to be a
whiny
star
code.
a
That's
long
weird.
time ago, and it was through the process of pulsar stripping that this eventually became planetary in size. Here's
And you
actually a
guys
really
have
cool
so
image
much
from
money,
the
nobody
NASA's
fixes
Chandra
that. That's
Observatory,
what's strange.
showing us
How
how
much
these
fucking
objects
money
look
do
like
you guys?
from a distance.
Rockstar has
They
a
actually
shit
do
ton of
resemble
money.
these
It
really
doesn't matter
massive
how much
comets.
money they
But
make,
the
it
tail in this
disappears,
case is
bro. They
produced by
take
the
it.
emissions from the planetary
The money
object.
doesn't
But
stay
when it
with the
comes to
company.
theoretical predictions
We
or
learned that from
potential
Sesame
explanations,
Street. You know how much
right
money
now there is
Sesame
really
Street
none.
made in the
For
fucking
example, this
90s?
partner used to be some kind
Now
of a
you're
white
telling me they're
dwarf
fucking
or a
broke.
result of some kind of a merger between
Jesus,
carbon
dude.
stars.
So
This
yeah,
still doesn't
Rockstar, that
explain
money,
these
they take the
ridiculously
money, they
high
take the
carbon
profits.
ratios. Because
Profits
even
don't
carbon
stay
stars,
in
which are
the
usually
company.
enriched in
They
carbon,
take
do
those
not show
profits
such
out of the
extreme
company.
ratios of carbon to oxygen and carbon to nitrogen. And that means that for scientists studying these objects, they need new models, new predictions, new theories, and
okay.
new explanations to try to understand why this atmosphere is so different and how something like this could have formed in this ridiculously extreme environment. But the fact that scientists have also discovered signs of strong winds serves as an important confirmation for wind-based models and for the fundamental understanding of how these extreme atmospheres seem to react when the object is so close to the parent star. But I guess when it comes to broader implications or why this matters, well, for one, we now have a completely new chemical way to conduct exoplanetary science.
That's pretty good,
Mostly
though.
because
See, I
so far
lost the
these
gang war,
observations
and now
seem to
they're
be
pushing in
extremely
on me.
different
That's
from
pretty
anything
good.
we've seen around normal stars. And this obviously pushes the boundaries for our imagination and scientific understanding, while also highlighting how, well, strange and unusual the universe itself seems to be, and how we still have so many different bizarre discoveries to make, all of which require explanations sometimes in the future. And so here this very strange world seems to be somewhat contradictory. Its size, its density, and even its temperature and wind patterns more or less fit our modern models and align with current predictions. Yet its atmosphere, or whatever is happening on its surface, seems to be an entirely different story and currently makes no sense. And it's really these kinds of anomalies that normally drive scientific progress. They force us to rethink our previous assumptions and force us to explore completely new possibilities. And so as we conduct more spectroscopic observations and discover more about these unusual objects, we might find something new in the process. For now though, this is probably just going to remain another puzzle. But until we discover something else about these objects, or until something else is observed around this pulsar, that's all I wanted to mention. Check out additional videos in the description. Thank you for watching, subscribe, come back tomorrow to learn something else, support the channel on Patreon where you can find additional videos without any ads, and can DM me directly, or by choosing the channel membership that grants you early access. Alternatively, you can also buy the wonderful person t-shirt in the description below. Stay wonderful, I'll see you tomorrow, and as always, bye-bye.
How you not see my car? Come on, dude, roll with me. I'm always there, son, man. Say, we gonna roll, homie, or what? Well, let's do it. I done smoke fools caught slipping again. Even though she's got 5 miles. Promise me you won't total with CJ. Get west. Get my mother.
Come on, man, move the car. Okay.
Cabrón. Florida fucker. Hey, you want this to get ugly?
I'm
out. Think of a better example of the last week. Better example of the internet being real life than the last week. And that is because, well, we had somebody who was transformed mostly by the internet into a person who did very, very bad things. Right? The internet is an interesting thing when I look at the history of the internet from my generation probably to yours, which is that we used to view the internet as like a fake place, like a virtual place, not a real place that you would actually go to.
Pick that up.
You didn't use your real names.
Okay. I was going to say, you better
you went
pick
to,
that
you know, virtual message boards, and you always had this message of not to believe everything that you saw on the internet. That was consideed like a dangerous thing, is to like, you know, believe something that you saw on the internet just offhand. But at the same time, when the internet was really coming out, a lot of people were very hopeful that the internet would be this breaker of bad beliefs, and it has been. It's broken a lot of beliefs. I would say that like the atheist community was really excited about the internet because they really thought the internet would enlighten people. But it turns out that the internet, besides being a breaker of beliefs, is just as much a maker of beliefs. And those beliefs on the internet are formed in a lot of the same ways beliefs are formed in, quote, the real world. We have our social circle, which will influence our beliefs. And the truth is, as you express beliefs, you will really believe those beliefs. So being incognito and having beliefs doesn't always work. And one of the things you can point to towards like formation of belief and this point that I'm making is prisoners of war. They used to make prisoners of war write essays about communism and things like that. And so those prisoners would get rewards for like writing the best essay. Well, writing a really good essay on communism, well, it would actually make you start to believe the communist beliefs. You would have to, in order to steel man communist beliefs, you, through repetition, through having to articulate their arguments in the best possible way, you start to believe those arguments yourself. So there's one thing, right? We express our beliefs to people in ways that we feel are acceptable, and you just start to adopt those beliefs. So the beliefs of your social circle, those just start to become your predominant beliefs. The internet is really interesting because we create virtual communities on the internet. You're in a virtual community right now, which is my subscribers and my people that are like me, okay? The people who like me, I guess, and maybe the people who are like me. We're in a community. And so we're influencing each other all the time. What would probably stop this community from being insular is that you have lots of interactions with other communities, presumably, right? You have real people in your real life that you talk to. You probably have, you know, other people on social media that you listen to and talk to and interact with. And so it's not like we're an isolated mountain village. But there are internet communities that end up like isolated mountain villages. They end up in a bubble. And I think the Charlie Kirk's Assassin is a really good example of this, is that people who don't know what Discord is are like, he was on Discord. It's like, well, what he was on probably several Discord servers that were focused on a topic, or the people in it were of a certain variety. Maybe they were transgender. And so if you're on a server with a bunch of people who are transgender and they're always expressing their beliefs, you start to internalize those beliefs. To me, it's no accident that this big uptick in people saying that they're transgender and identifying as transgender or non-binary or homosexual or something else has gone right along with the internet. To the people who believe this is like a real thing, I mean, it is a real thing, but who believe that it's good or I don't quite have the word to put on there, like authentic. Let's use the word authentic. That's a really good word here. For the people who think it's authentic, they're like, well, we're uncovering things that already were. That's the core of their belief, is that somehow 30% of people are not heterosexual normal people. Because last I saw it was like 30% of Gen Z, or maybe it's Gen Alpha, like the teenagers now, were identifying as one of these LGBTQPIA XWYZ groups.
Yeah, boss, let's get up, make breakfast.
If that was the case, so 30% of people historically were this way, and yet they just hid themselves. They just hid what they thought. They just hid how they felt, and we just don't know about it till now. Or had they been influenced to express these things and to feel these things and to fit in to do these things. You'll hear lots of anecdotes about people. It's like all my daughter's friends decided that they were non-binary or something, and so they start influencing each other to act and feel and to be that way.
I know.
I think women in particular are really vulnerable to this because they're more vulnerable to peer pressure in their peer groups than men are. Men are still vulnerable, but they're just less vulnerable than girls, in my experience. So,
yes, you can take.
The internet
when you want to take to school.
told people that this was a thing.
Not yet. Hey,
they told them a little story that you could be a spirit embodied in the wrong body. That's the heart of the transgender argument, is that you if you say, "Oh, I feel like I'm a woman in a man's body."
The strawberries.
Okay, so you're like your soul was implanted into the wrong body. There's a whole cosmology that goes along with that, and the internet is able to tell you that story. And if you've never been inoculated against those ideas, because maybe you didn't grow up in a social or religious background that tackled those directly, then you can start to believe them. And if you're in a Discord server where you're around lots of people that believe it, you'll start to believe that it's authentic. And then maybe you start to believe that thing about yourself. I'll give you an anecdote, which was years ago, I stumbled across, the internet used to be, let's do a little preamble here. The internet used to be a much freer place, informationally and ideologically. It was a freer place for ideas 15 to 20 years ago and longer. So this thing I'm remembering was at least 10 years ago, maybe 15, probably 15. Which is people used to just have, you could just have a website that was focused on.
You didn't even buy it. One bite.
Weird erotica.
Hey, baby.
That would be a website you could have.
You gotta do a bite or a
So I remember stumbling across some of the more weird erotica websites where people would post their fan erotica. Not of nowadays we think of furry erotica. This was people who had a fetish for being eunuchs.
That's the rule.
Right, like having their genitals removed and stuff. So that was their fetish. It was not to be transgender, but when you read their work, and I read some of it out of morbid curiosity, this is so weird, you have to read it. I don't know if you guys have ever felt that way. This thing is so weird, I have to read it and see what the hell is going on. Disturbing. It's kind of like a train wreck. Or a car crash at a NASCAR event. You don't want to look away. What I found is that many of these transgender erotica stories from 15 to 20 years ago involved someone being slowly transformed, right? People would date a transgender person and become transgender themselves. And then when you get to their actual personal stories and not the erotica they write, that tends to be a theme. It's they know a transgender person, and that transgender person starts convincing them to take hormones or not be binary, and then they become transgender because they're so you heard this term autogynephilia. They become so aroused by the idea of being transgender or the idea of being a woman that they end up pursuing that path. And you have lots of people this is autogynephilia and it's different from transgenderism. This goes to the heart of whether you're accepting the cosmology of transgenderism itself, which is that you are somehow in the wrong body, that your body is wrong, which for people who are, say, traditional Christians, obviously Mormons, because they have a belief in a pre-existence of the soul, they have a totally different cosmology. That doesn't apply to them. But if you're talking Catholics, right, you can't be in the wrong body because you are your body. And there were ancient heresies that dealt with the non-bodiness of Gnosticism and things like that you were just a ghost in a flesh puppet or something like that. If you are well-versed in these things, then transgenderism is a non-starter because it presupposes a bunch of things that are impossible. And to be honest, it's weird to me that there are so many atheists that are transgender because if they don't believe in an immortal soul, they can't really believe that the soul is in the wrong body. They have to come up with some other constructed belief that's cutting up the body somehow is better than fixing the broken mind,
You
right? Or
dance with
the broken
Peaches.
mind is set. It's a certain thing, and
Hello,
the only thing
Peaches,
to
you're
do to
so
relieve
fun. And Peaches
the
say,
discomfort is to cut up the body, right? To
It's
transform the
about,
body to look
I
like
missed
something
you.
else.
That's what Peaches says to you.
Which,
And then you guys grab hands. And
yeah,
you
it doesn't
start
really fly with
dancing
me.
together.
But the point
You're
is,
like,
I
"I
think a
love
lot of
you,
them
Peaches."
simply haven't really consulted and thought deep
And
about the
Peaches
cosmology
says,
that they
"I
have. They
knew."
just internalize it and exist it and believe it. So yes, all of these
And
things are
then
fake. The
Peaches
people on the
laugh.
Discord server, you never
And then
meet them.
Isabel
They're not
laughs.
real, right? They're
Everybody has a good
disembodied
time.
voices in a sense, right? You're not touching them, right? They're almost like like a demon, like a disembodied voice. But it's real because it causes you to think, to conceive, to perceive reality in a certain way, which then causes you to act in certain ways. So the internet is real life, and it's real life because it affects the way people think, and the way people think is, and the way that they conceive, and the way that they plan, the way that they conceive reality or perceive reality, and the way that they plan to alter reality is affected by that. There's also this thing that's like, you know, the boomers didn't really believe the internet could be real life or have an effect on real life. They just imagine it's a bunch of, I don't know what it's a bunch of flim flam nonsense, and why would anyone believe it? And that's wise while they're the TV generation, so that they were just raised on direct propaganda. We believed the internet would break us out of this propaganda, and it did, but it also just created all kinds of other bizarre beliefs and allowed people to get into it. It's like that meme. It's like, you know, in the 90s or the 80s, you're like, you wake up, you think about having sex with toasters, you realize that's stupid, and you move on with your life. 2020, you wake up, you think about having sex with a toaster, you find a group of people online that are sexually attracted to toasters, and you completely destroy your life. That's the possibility of the internet. The internet allows that possibility there. There's that the regulating social matrix breaks down, and instead we have these virtual communities that re-regulate all of the social norms. So the people in that little Discord server, the little leftist Discord server, where they're talking about their boy periods or whatever else is happening down there because of their surgery. It's disgusting. You can look it up if you want.
At lunchtime, when they go to lunch,
if you have a strong stomach.
I need you to
while they're doing all that, that's their reality. They basically formed a new reality, because remember, reality is real. Like, there are objects, and you know, we can test that those objects are real, but we can't perceive all of reality, right? Like, I can see the objects that are in the room. I can touch them. Like, there's a microphone, I can see a visual of me, and there's some disembodied voices typing to me right now, and that's really great. But I can't perceive what's happening in the other room. So you have a model of reality, like, I believe my children are doing something in another room. I believe that my wife is going to be doing something with them. I'm trusting my wife to take care of the kids. Do I know? No, that's something that's outside of my sensory control. It's part of my plans for how I'm going to interact with reality. Just like how you're going to get up and you're going to believe that you're going to go to work. You're planning for the future. You believe that the job is doing something, right? There's lots of beliefs about reality that are not purely about our sensory information, but rather about us constructing expectations for how things are supposed to work. So when you're in that little Discord server, you will just end up with a new community that tells you a new way to think, and you won't have anybody outside of that to challenge that. So rather than the internet breaking down the propaganda of the baby boomer generation, it instead just allowed people to be more heavily brainwashed in weirder directions than I think we really perceived back in, say, the 1990s. It's been very interesting to watch. Hardwick Bentho, I'll get there in just a second. So that's the big thing that I want to talk about. Internet is real life. Now, I've known people who got married to people they met playing World of Warcraft. I have some of my best friends I met playing World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft, is it a real place? No, we know it's not a real place. It's a virtual simulation of space, and interaction. But I'm able to communicate words to other people as if I'm talking to them. We are doing things as if we are doing them in the same room. We we have all that. Like we are sharing experiences, which creates deep bonds. So virtual communities, including guilds in World of Warcraft, create the same feelings and the same circumstances as if we really were working together. We were working a job together, we're going to school together, or we're in war together. As much as World of Warcraft is not really war, all right, but you are fighting horde, and it's exciting, and you do get like adrenal stimulation from a lot of those experiences. So you can have really intense experiences in World of Warcraft, big intense drama, guilds breaking up. That stuff actually makes bonds tighter because it's more real, it's more emotionally intense. The higher the level of emotional intensity, the more you need to bond in order to band together to overcome those challenges. So the tighter the social bond actually becomes because of that.
It's a simulation, and you're
so when I say, yeah, I know multiple people who met their spouse playing World of Warcraft.
But
and
like that's why when
I have great friends I met
real,
playing
you
World
get
of
that
Warcraft.
uncanny valley.
World of Warcraft facilitated that.
So I
World
could
of
be
Warcraft
wrong,
created a
but I would
virtual
argue,
community and a virtual place for that to exist in. It's
that
really
would be the problem.
foolish to think
Like,
that those experiences are not real,
give us more
because they are real. We perceive them as real, just as I could tell you a story about a time like me and my buddy Chad went and like we ganked this horde. Now, did we really do something? No, what we were really doing was pressing keys on a keyboard and talking into microphones.
I wonder too, is like, no, the body
we virtually did something, but to us, we're perceiving it as real.
How real
so it's as real an experience as if we had gone out and built a fence together or something, or gone out hunting together. Those are real life experiences, but we perceive the World of Warcraft experience as being just as real.
Consider your instincts upgraded. Kia, movement that inspires.
All right now, hundreds of athletes are swimming in the Chicago River.
Now let's take a look at the first round of some 300 swimmers jumping into the Chicago River this morning. There has not been an open swim in the river since 1927.
But we are happy to report the river is clean enough now, and today's swim is also raising money for ALS research at Northwestern. NBC5's Jen Shantz has been live along the Riverwalk all morning. She has an update now on how the swimmers are doing. Hey, Jen.
I am joined, actually, good morning, Kate and Patrick, by the #1 finisher. She's also a member of the USA national team. This is Becca Mann. You just finished the 1 mile or the 2 mile swim, Becca?
2 mile swim. 2 mile.
And you said you don't even know your time yet. You just got out of the water, right?
Yes.
How are you feeling? And how's the water? How warm is it?
It's about 74, perfect temperature for a race, in my opinion. It was incredible. The water was actually quite clear. Every time I breathed, I could see the city. I got to be surrounded by people that I grew up swimming with because I'm from Chicago that I haven't seen in 20 years. So it was really a magical experience.
You know, you're used to open water swimming, so this is not necessarily new to you, but how often have you been able to train in the river?
This is my first time swimming in the Chicago River, which I've always wanted to swim in the river because I've grown up watching it, died on St. Patrick's Day, and also going down the river on river cruises. So, and my first open water swim ever was in Lake Michigan. So I've always wanted to swim in it, and I'm so happy that we finally can, and that there's a race in this river.
How does this compare to other open water swims? You were saying off camera you did an interesting one in Cozumel recently. How does this compare to those swims?
So I would say rivers are some of my favorite bodies of water to swim in because you have currents, you have bridges that you swim under, you generally have a pretty narrow course, and I just like different conditions. You don't get to swim in those conditions that often, so it keeps it entertaining and it really fulfills my sense of adventure.
Becca Mann, the winner of the 2 mile, first time ever that swimmers have been able to do this in nearly a century, 2 mile Chicago River swim. The 2 mile winner, Becca Mann, congratulations. I'm now going to turn to another familiar face. This is Natalie Hines. She's an Olympic medalist. Natalie, you did not get in the water this morning, but you've been kind of emceeing it, and you've been blowing the horns, you've been announcing to people. As someone who knows what they're up against, what do you think they're going through right now?
Well, as a sprinter, I can tell you that a mile is a really long way, so I'm really proud of Becca for swimming 2 miles and everyone else who did as well, but also for the milers and people who were kind of, I don't know, maybe scared or cautious to come here this morning, but the vibes are so high, there's so much excitement in the air. It's been 98 years, so there's people up here like watching, there's so much curiosity around this event, so I hope that it continues next year and for years to come.
And really quick, Kate and Patrick, I do want to show you the people, if our photojournalist Joe could pan off and just show you the people watching up on the Dearborn Street Bridge. I mean, this really is attracting just hundreds of spectators. A quick thing I do want to mention, all of these swimmers, in order to qualify for this, they had to raise a certain amount of money for ALS research.
I remember
so a
that.
big part of this is raising money for research at Northwestern, and it's also to raise money to support kids in the Chicago area learning how to swim. Natalie, talk to us about why that's so important
That's
and
another
where that
major
money is
thing.
going locally.
Neo goes down into the machines, and that's where the old man is.
It's so important.
And that's where he tries to tell him, like, hey, without these machines,
people of all ages learn
they're
how
all
to
gonna
swim.
die.
So for this event specifically, it's going
And
to be
people don't realize how much
the inner city
infrastructure
school
there is
system.
underneath our feet.
But that also, hopefully,
wash
we can
that
make
shit
that and
away,
branch that
so.
out to adults, teaching adults how to swim,
That's
so
the
that they
shit
in
our
turn can teach their children how to
great-great-grandfathers built.
swim. I got into the sport because my mom knew how to swim,
We couldn't
and she
be
thought
where
that
we
me
are
and
at
my
if they
sister
hadn't
and I
built
may
all
like
those
it,
sewers,
so
all those
we did.
utility
We were obsessed
lines.
with it. I was being dragged out of the pool at 4 years old. So
Like in New
I grew
York,
up
I
with a
watched
love
a
for the
show
water,
one
and
time.
I just hope for that for
And I
other
forget
kids
what
that are
it was
growing
called,
up in
but it was
Chicago.
like,
But that's so
it
near
was
and
in
dear to
the
my heart
early
to lower the barrier of
1900s,
entry
late
into this sport
1800s,
by
and New
offering
York
free
basically
swim
couldn't
lessons
grow
that
any
then can
bigger
turn
because of the
into
water situation,
immeasurable
because of the
experiences
water and
with
sewage
going and watching
situation.
your favorite
And they
Olympians
did
and
some
seeing junior
huge
nationals
fucking
and
project.
nationals and potentially the
That was
Olympics.
one of those
So
mega
it's such a great
projects
cause,
about
and
the beginning
honestly,
of the
this is where it
century.
starts.
And they're still using
Having
those
seen
today.
a lot of your
Still using
colleagues
those
and
tunnels.
teammates swim, do you think you
So
would
it
ever
was
jump
something they
in?
brought in
For
fresh
sure. I
water
would do
from
it
like
next year if
upstate
we're going
New
to do
York
it, but
or
I would
something,
have to
where
start
those,
training again, to be
and then the
honest.
sewage to wash all that stuff back out.
Oh my goodness, I would have to get
But
my
it was a
lungs in
big,
order
huge
because a
project,
mile's a
and New
long
York
way.
would be what it
Natalie
is
Hines,
today
thanks
if
so
they
much.
hadn't
We'll
done
send it
that.
back to you guys in the studio. We'll be back
Still
here in
a lot
about
of
30 minutes.
Oh, that's awesome. It's great to see. First and foremost, I was wondering if there were any spectators looking along. So thanks for that picture from Joe there. And also,
thousands.
the
Yeah, I mean,
water temperature. Yeah, I was really interested to know how warm or cool it was, especially since you're wearing a jacket. But it's a little chillier in the morning. So, Jen, thank you so much. That was great. I'm glad it's so popular.
Hey, yeah, we
Olympians out there,
no,
too.
Yeah,
no,
that's great.
warmer than I thought.
We'll check back in soon.
Thanks, Jen.
she did. She was excited. Right.
Pope Leo XIV appeared once again at the window of the papal palace to deliver the Angelus. In front of a large crowd of the faithful, the Pope reflected on the idea of accountability at the end of life.
Noi non siamo padroni della nostra vita, né dei beni di cui godiamo.
You can check it.
Tutto ci è stato dato in
I think it's the sour. The sour is better. Whatever they do to the dough, I bet you that souring process, you're supposed to have heartburn once in a while. That's like when I was a kid, dude. As soon as people got heartburn, they'd start, well, that's all base. That's all alkalids or whatever you call them. And yeah, it makes your stomach feel better, but like sometimes you need that acidy. You know what I mean?
Sia davanti agli uomini, alla società e soprattutto a chi verrà dopo di noi.
At the end of his address, he made a point to remember and call for prayers for all those suffering from the violence of war.
Con voi e con I pastori delle chiese in Terra Santa, ripeto, non c'è futuro basato sulla violenza, sull'esilio forzato, sulla vendetta.
I'll see you a couple more times.
I popoli hanno bisogno di pace. Chi li ama veramente
It's Hitler shit. You know, Napoleon tried to control it. They all do.
With this message, Pope Leo XIV reminded the world
That was
no
Attila
war
the
can bring a
Hun.
true or lasting future.
And then Leo the Great met him outside the gates. No, but that's weird, dude. That whole thing is weird. The Emperor leaving Rome. The Pope staying in Rome.
Dear brothers and sisters, happy Sunday.